in a matter of minutes. According to this story, yesterday's protests marked a failed attempt by the United States and religious leaders to have Mr. Odinga and President William Ruto, who arrived in the country yesterday morning, into talks in the face of the risk of the country plunging into anarchy. Police in riot gear forced Mr. Odinga's convoy to exit Mombasa Road into Imara Daima and through to Mukuru where he led thousands of supporters in demanding for electoral reforms and lowering of the current high cost of living. But unfortunately, what we saw yesterday was that this then degenerated into a horrible scenes of things that we saw, whether it was the lobbing of tear gas into, closed small areas, the hurting of journalists, whether it's what we saw in Kisumu at Jurth with the newly installed mortuary, then coming to an absolute mess. It was looted, it was destroyed. Whether we come to Nairobi where we saw businessmen, grown men, crying tears about the loss of their businesses in a matter of minutes and asking the unfortunate question, what did I do? What did I do?
What did I do to deserve this? Now, there are various angles to this, okay? So there's the first angle. The first angle is, of course, what we hear from the organizers of the protest, which is that the police were lobbing tear gas and police ended up injuring people. Police ended up injuring journalists yesterday. We saw that. Some journalists who are still in hospital and others who were badly injured through police action. Raila Odinga, you even heard the clip from what he said yesterday in the news just now, him saying, they were attacked directly. Him saying that he suspects that live bullets were fired at his vehicle. Martha Karua saying the same thing. Tear gas lobbed into her vehicle and all those things. So there's that angle of how the police conducted themselves, blah. Then there's the angle of how the demonstrators or a section of demonstrators, whether 1, 2, 10, conducted themselves. Those that entered into shops, these photos that we are seeing here, shops within Juakali area in Kisumu on fire during mass action against high cost of living. And all you're seeing here is people cheering. You've seen video clips going around of people just walking around, a crowd of people walking around, meeting somebody, stripping them of everything, of their belongings, basically robbing them and moving on to the next one. Like the way you're saying, those business people who are complaining, they were attacked, their premises were attacked, not by police officers, but by people who were in the midst of the demonstrators. That's another angle. And then there's the angle of the political leadership of the country and the hardline stance and the way they're saying, this shall continue. We shall not stop. We shall not do this and the other. We must do this and the other. We must be heard. And the other side saying, you only want a nusu mkate. We cannot discuss anything beyond you going home. Those three angles. Bottom line is that we're heading not in the right direction. That what could be a sober conversation, if the conversation is about cost of living, 1. Second conversation is about electoral justice, 2. Third conversation is about the future of the country and how we govern ourselves, 3. Those 3 issues are muddied by everything else that we've discussed. CT.
This entire conversation, the question that must be asked is, okay, all the angles that you've provided, the narratives that represent the executive, the politicians, the demonstrators, the leaders of the demonstration, the police service, the narrative that comes out from those who represent these factions, that they're all doing this on behalf of the people. Which people? Which
ones?
Which ones in particular? Are we saying those who have been robbed are not part of the people of this particular country? These people who've been injured, are they not part of it? So, or are they telling us that a price must be paid, and the price that is being paid is innocent people who are just going about their normal businesses, normal. They haven't harmed anyone. They haven't done anything wrong. That we are saying that they are the ones who must bear the brunt of the call for these
bigger ideals,
the better future that we're speaking of.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you're just small collateral. I mean, it's a small price to pay. Your life.
One has to ask that question, and one has to ask the question and ask, even if indeed we, as we all know, we do have problems in the country, did we exhaust every possible avenue that exists? We talked with the Secretary General of ODM, and he talked about the frustrations that they have in Parliament in trying to pass these things. But is he new to Jerusalem? This is Kenya, this is politics. Does he not know how this... I mean, we are discussing a political situation and we are trying to look at political solutions that are being provided by both sides of the divide. And the very person that they're saying they're representing is the one who is getting harmed, who is actually being harmed by this process.
Yeah.
So one must ask, in all honesty, how exactly is the Mwananchi benefiting from all this? Somebody must understand that there's a benefit.
Yeah.
I'd like that person to explain to me this benefit, because I clearly am not seeing it. And I'm not seeing it because every day we have the demonstration, people are harmed. There is a loss. It's not a question of numbers. When you say numbers, when someone dies, that is a human being who didn't need to have died under those circumstances.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason. This isn't one of those situations where you're going to say one side is better than the other, because the police will bear the brunt of the blame because they have the mandate and duty to protect everyone.
Yep.
And it is evident they are not doing that. But on the other hand, the police are victims, because when you have people who are underpaid, you've heard me say this on many occasions, you have people who are under-resourced. Essentially, it's like you are fueling these people and arming them to be impatient, to be everything that we've seen them being. And then you unleash them. And then you have thugs who have been waiting for this occasion and praying that it occurs.
It will happen,
So it happens, and then now their job cards are complete.
Yep.
They can now cause the mayhem that they were setting out to do. Now, when you are the person who has brought about these protests, you did not know this.
You anticipate, because it's not the first time that you're organizing a protest.
No.
You see, it's not the first time that the leadership of Azimio call any of them, Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa. We can say maybe Wajakoya, is this the first time he's organizing a national protest? But all the others, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. Even Wajakoya, it's not the first time that he has seen this kind of protests. So you can anticipate and know this is what's going to happen. I have never heard the leadership of Azimio speaking expressly and saying, we do not want this kind of violence. I have never heard. They
we condemn this.
We are telling the police that we are going to be peaceful. That's all. I don't hear them saying, listen, our people, as we go out tomorrow, this is what we are not going to tolerate. We are not going to tolerate A, B, C, D from us. This is how we are going to behave. We are going to have a properly organized structure. If within ourselves, if you find that there is somebody who is behaving in a manner that's untoward, this is how we deal with them. Even when you were saying that Gachagua was organizing to bring people infiltrate people into did he say how they are going to handle it? Because that's the kind of leadership that you're talking about. This is somebody who would be the president. This is somebody who would be the deputy president today. What kind of leadership are you giving to the people that you're calling out to come and demonstrate? I have not heard anything like that. Yes, I hear you saying the police should. And yes, the police should. But also, what responsibility do the organizers of a demonstration have on organizing the people and giving them the marching orders and telling them this is what we are now going to do, this is what we are going to do. When we are provoked by the police, by them throwing tear gas, this is how we shall respond, this is how we shall react. Because you say that every time that you're reacting is because you've been provoked by the police who are throwing tear gas.
That.
Okay, we are not going to get into somebody's supermarket and rob it. We are not going to go into a mortuary and vandalize it. Have we heard anything like that from the leadership?
More importantly, have you heard as we are condemning these things?
Nope.
No, maybe it's been condemned, and I don't know. Have you heard that we condemn this, we don't support this? This violence is against the very principles we stand for. Do you hear? Now, if you don't voice your opposition to this violence, what message then are you sending?
The thing is, in many cases, we often ask how bad does something need to get before you then realize that you either one, take responsibility for your participation in getting it there, or number two, do something about it so that it stops. Unfortunately for me, even if there was a valid reason as to why, even if there are valid reasons as to why these protests are happening, unfortunately, it pales in comparison to what is happening now. I'm sorry, but there's nothing you're going to be able to tell me that then is going to justify the loss of a life of a young person around Pipeline yesterday. It's not going to justify the loss of property in the same area yesterday. It's not going to justify that a county government that has spent a lot of money putting together a mortuary, which was long needed. Jurth needed this facility for years. It was budgeted for. They finally got it done last year. Last week, the governor presided over its opening, and then you destroy it in a matter of minutes. It doesn't justify any of this from happening. It doesn't justify that any of this has actually happened. And that for me is the problem, that we're seeing loss. That we're waking up on Friday morning and people have to sit down and count their losses and have to think, all right, in an already biting economy, how are we going to start again? For the people who have been injured, where do we begin? For buildings that have been burnt down, where do you start from? For lives that have been lost, how do you recover them? One life lost is one life too many, I keep saying. And so is it justified at the end of it? Or even more morbidly, you would have to ask, that is all of this then fuel for the end goal? And that all of these losses that we're talking about then essentially have actually been considered, Eric. And that folks are saying, you know what, these things need to happen in order for our end result to be achieved.
And what is this end
result? So here you are being emotional about it. And folks understand.
This was planned. Saying,
we know that this was going to happen.
I'm investing this so that I can get the other.
Exactly. We've done it before. So just like you're saying, we've done it before. So you know that when you go out into the streets and you protest and people take their frustrations, and the people's frustrations are the currency that you use to buy the end result in this case. Because the truth of the matter is that, yes, the cost of living is high. It's true. That food is expensive. It is true. Energy is expensive. It is true. And there is no better situation to get people to rile up with you than when they also are in a depressed state. And we know this because that's the currency that you will spend in order to get where you're going. We know that's going to happen. So one must ask, we can be here. And, you know, they say the mother of all demonstrations will come on Monday. All right.
What does that mean?
Okay, fine. But we can sit here and you can talk about a troubled spirit and a vexed and angered spirit. But perhaps the realization on the other side is, you know what? We understand, and this is damage. It's collateral damage. And we knew that it was going to happen. But we're going to forge on ahead because it is going to help us achieve our goals.
You know something I've always asked myself, especially now that we had demonstrations in other parts of the continent, and the example that keeps being given is South Africa and how the police were walking alongside the protesters. Are we saying our police force is incapable of doing such a thing?
Service.
Actually, even in this country, we have seen instances and many photos and even video clips of police walking alongside and even engaging with citizens.
I'll give you specific on Monday last week. There was a picture of a female police officer who had to hold the hand of two young girls who were trying to cross the street during this demonstration thing. And she could see these ones. If I don't
they will
be
protect
caught up
them
in this thing.
And it's not that they will be harmed by fellow police officers. No. They will be harmed by those guys who are protesting. And so the policewoman was basically guarding them. There were clips of a policeman coming and having a conversation and telling you people, please, ambia wale watu warudi kule ndani, please, let's just, you can operate from this area, you go this way because we shall maintain the peace this way. We have seen those instances, City. Yes, we've also seen those instances of a cop who is lobbing tear gas directly into
where
a
I'm
vehicle.
going with this is, just like in the midst of protesters, there are people who are out to cause mayhem. They're not there to protest.
Yeah.
Are we saying that even among the police force, that there are individuals who are determined that this peaceful manner of approaching this is what...
It doesn't work.
No, they're not going to do that. They're going to lobby tear gas, and should you make the mistake of passing anywhere near them, you'll be clobbered to near death.
Well, I think suffice to say that on each side of and it's unfortunate we have to divide things in this manner, but I think suffice to say that on each side you have the bad eggs. You have the folks who are saying, okay, we're actually demonstrating peacefully, and we can't run away from the reality that those people actually exist. But there are those who will take advantage of the situation. Okay, what am I going to be able to get out of this? And you can say the same on the side of the police as well. That if we say generally people are peace-seeking, but there are going to be some who are going to run against the grain.
If I do my maths, the vast majority of protesters are peaceful. The vast majority of people in the police force are peaceful. Because imagine if the entire police contingent went rogue, what would we have seen? It's evident they did not. It's also evident that the entire group of people who are protesting did not go rogue.
No.
Yep.
Because if they had, then this city would be a shell of what it was. So how then do you weed out such people? Because they exist. How do you condemn them? How do you ensure that they do not participate in this?
Is it enough to say, because this is the thing, that what we are seeing is the result of a few here and there having gone rogue. But then it seems as though the clear answer is to cut the lights on this thing. That's the only way.
Those that have gone rogue are actually the worthy currency for both sides. Okay? For the side of Azimio, those that have gone rogue, the images that you see of destruction, of chaos, the confusion, the outpouring of emotion by the public, that is what is helping the Azimio side. That's what is making them feel, yes, see, we're getting attention because of this. If it was just walk in, walk around town, go back home, they'd be like, all right, well, yeah. To be like the Nyamakema traders who walked to the DP's office, talked about China Square, went back to their businesses. Done. Or like the days when you see civil society organizations of whatever nature organizing just a walk, a protest, a march, and then go to a certain office, they finish, they disperse. That's it. Present a memorandum or whatever, and then you go home. That's it. If this demonstration was just about, these guys, the bosses in their SUVs, rooftop of the SUVs, and the masses just running alongside them, and then the bosses talking and addressing them, and then it ends and goes home, not a single incident, they would be categorizing it as failure. Those rogue elements, those ones, are the ones who actually give currency to the organizers of the protests. Those rogue police officers give currency to the organizers of the protests. And also to the other side of government. We are not going to tolerate. You see, we are talking tough. We can't allow you to behave like this. That's why we are lobbying tear gas. That's why you're seeing all tear gas and disbursement of people and people running helter-skelter, haywire, all those. It's currency to government and it's currency to the organizers of the demos. Those rogue elements. Is it possible that those rogue elements are actually the ones who are organized? That everybody else is just being corralled? It's the leader of the herd that we see doing all these things. Those are the ones that have been given a brief, so that then this can be the headline. Why is this the headline? Why does it have to be protests, chaos, amid frantic calls for talks? Why? Why can't it just be demonstrations enter day 4? Why?
This is where now we become captive to a violent history that we have. That matters of this nature, before any sane discussion is had, lives must be lost, property must be destroyed. But the question is, it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't.
It absolutely doesn't have to be that way.
No.
I remember the aftermath of 2008, in Kisumu specifically. The looters had looted everything that you could loot in sight. There was nothing in the shops to loot anymore. So what then the marauding crowds did, started focusing on the affluent areas where people lived. I remember having a conversation with a colleague of mine. I was in Nairobi, and I said, you are supporting this mayhem. Are you aware that the shops will be empty and then they'll come for you because of where you live? I said, no. It happened because I remember that colleague calling me, screaming at the top of their voices in total panic. What brought a halt to these things? It escalated to the point where in the estates where people lived, somebody goes to shop. It was happening in Kibera. People stop you and take your shopping. They don't harm you, but they take your shopping. So you could not shop. Do you know vigilantes had to be formed in estates? What they did was they went to because they knew these people. I mean, you live there, you know these people. They went to the parents and said, if your son, it was their sons, harm will come to this child if they continue with this. Do you know, it took 2 or 3 people to be burnt, literally burnt in front of their parents' houses with tires. It stopped. Now, does it have to get to that? They were burnt. They were burnt. Tires, petrol. Now, you tell me. These are people who were robbing their neighbors, people whom they know, who they live with. This madness, when it catches momentum, it doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know whether you are on their side or you are not on their side.
Yep.
No. So long as you represent the group that has something that they feel they don't have. And then there's the kind of people who are just thieves, thugs. They are just people who do wrong.
That's it.
Yes, this is just that perfect opportunity they were waiting for to exercise this madness that they have in their system.
And you give it to them.
And you provided them with it.
Give them the avenue.
And these people exist within the police force.
Yep.
These people who are
with that kind of mindset.
Yes,
borderline
sociopaths.
Yes.
They exist. Some are fully blown sociopaths. They actually don't care. And you have to ask the same question of the leaders, whether they're in government or in the opposition. Are we saying that in both camps you also have leadership that doesn't care what happens to people?
Yeah.
I say an absolute yes.
I say yes.
25 minutes to 8. Let's take a break and let's give us some Minute Maid. Yeah.
Okay. So, getting back to your, high levels of productivity after you've had a huge think about some of these things, Minute Maid says, okay, take an moment. Whether it's across the different flavors that Minute Maid has up for offer, apple, pulpy orange, mango, and tropical, take a moment to come back to your high levels of productivity moments with Minute Maid.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I have a brother. He was a pilot. He was laid off. He came to a policeman. He messed up.
He went from a pilot to a policeman.
Exactly.
He stole a jet.
Yeah.
In fact, you should be lucky he was not court-martialed.
The Spice Drive. Big hair and the biggest hits from the best decade.
Indeed, it's all about hashtag Spice Drive, hashtag Quatch, KWACH, 3 to 7 in the PM.
The Spice Drive, only on 94.
25 and lows of 15. It's cloudy at 16 in Nakuru and cloudy at 15 in Nyeri. 14 and clear in Eldoret, and we'll see highs of 32 in Mombasa today with highs of 33 in Malindi. It's clear at 20 in Kisumu with highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega. 18 and cloudy in Kampala, going to highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in Dar es Salaam. It's cloudy at 13 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 32 in a rainy Lagos at 27. It's cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa, going to highs of 28 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
All right. Network of traffic in most parts of the city this morning. It's busy coming off Uhuru Highway after the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and very, very busy on the Thika Superhighway. Coming in from the junction of Outer Ring, Kiambu Road is also doing the thing this morning. Looking at Ring Road Westlands coming through Also on James Gishuru, quite busy, coming off Ngong Road, Gitanga Road, Naivasha Road, all of that, pretty busy this morning as well. It's normal Friday morning traffic, but compared to yesterday, it is quite busy. Coming off the Northern Bypass, some traffic then coming in and touching on the Thika Superhighway, but then also coming in through towards Kiambu Road. This is manageable. It's not crazy, not at those crazy levels just yet, but we'll keep an eye on things. I hope it doesn't get so. We know that it's drizzling in some parts, so it's going to slow things down considerably. There's outbound traffic. Folks are going away for the weekend, it would appear. And we're looking at that happening on Waiyaki Way as well as the Thika Superhighway. Keep an eye on things. Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
1 minute to 8. The conversation continues. In the Situation Room this morning, we are calling out all actors in this. We are calling out the National Executive that has the mandate to provide security. We are calling out the National Police Service that has that direct mandate. And we're also calling out on the organizers of the demonstrations. All of them have a responsibility to ensure that at least there's sanity that prevails throughout. Okay, yes. So the police, and like Andrew Franklin is saying, the police is not conducting crowd control measures. Their tactics are designed to suppress peaceful mass demonstrations rather than prevent violent riots. And you can see instances of that, but not throughout. You can see instances of when the demonstrators were in Imara Daima yesterday, they crossed over into Pipeline, they went into Mukuru Kwanjenga, no issues. And then when they were emerging on the other end on Outer Ring Road, they found now the contingent of police officers. And that's where chaos started and mayhem. And you have to ask yourself, so why did the police have to react the way they reacted when the crowd emerged onto Outer Ring Road? Why? Why did they have to lob tear gas and start dispersing the same crowd? It had started from Imara, went into Pipeline, went all the way to the end of Mukuru Kwanjenga. So why did the police have to react the way they did yesterday? That's a question that we've got to ask.
You're right.
And you ask who was commanding them. Then also, beyond, after they were dispersed, the people, and were told, all right, so people started going back home, those small pockets of demonstrators that now went into the rampage, robbing people, getting into people's businesses and destroying them, getting into people's premises and torching them, small businesses, those ones, why did they have to behave that way? You cannot say because you to pour tear gas, you lost your mind.
No.
The argument cannot be that because I was lobbed with tear gas by police officers, now therefore I have got to come and start destroying property. That cannot be justification. It can't be.
The question that has to be asked, were those actually even protesters in the first place? Because if we could see with clarity that there are people who are able to march peacefully and not 100 meters. They walked some distance.
Yes.
So what is this that changed? Now, that there are criminal elements within protesters, that has always been our history. We've had it for the longest time. It's not the first time this country is witnessing protests. The reason why they prevent protesters from going to the CBD, because we've seen the mayhem and the harm and the damage that is caused when you allow protesters into the CBD.
Yep.
It's been seen. You don't need to see it again.
So then the question is, based on what you're saying, CT, then isn't it a bit worrisome that we already know what the formula looks like, and we know the results when you apply this formula? When you apply this formula and say that we're going to have protests, we're going to have mass action, whatever it is, you know that these rogue elements will come out by nature of the way things are. Whether the rogue elements are in the police service, whether the rogue elements are within the demonstrators themselves, or people who are sitting on the periphery waiting for a mass protest like this to happen. You know. It's kind of like, you know, a police investigator working with a particular crime. And you know that if you do one, two will happen. You know that if you can draw somebody out by performing a particular action. So the worrying thing for me here is that you know the formula. It doesn't matter what side you're on. You know the formula, and that you know if you apply this here, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Is it justified then that you use that formula? Doesn't matter what happens here to get where you're going. And I think that's the ultimate
No,
question.
it's more ominous.
Is it all right?
It's even more ominous than that. Thugs and people who cause mayhem are known. Thugs, goons fire, they're known. How do you hire somebody if you don't know that is the particular area of specialization? They are known. They are known by the police, they are known by the security service, they are known. And even within the police service, they know each other. They know people who are this way inclined. They know. It's not that they are not known.
So the thing is, and this is, and I don't know if you guys are hearing what I'm saying, that if you know things are going to happen in a certain manner, are we then all being fed a particular thing to what, like you call it what? This is another looking thing. Because we're just going to watch things play out, and then you can almost guess what the outcome is going to be.
You see what?
That collateral damage will be just that. It will be collateral damage, and people will cry, and people will work to the bone to get their thing back. But at the end of the day, this eventual outcome will be the outcome.
Remember the
people
story
will die, lives will be lost, whatever
and
will
then
happen
we will
will
get
happen,
there
and
eventually.
then we'll get there eventually.
Remember what I said about the story I was telling you about what I saw in Kisumu. The only time the community understood that these thugs would come for anyone, that no one was exempt, it's when the community started responding. When they themselves realized that their lives were at risk. Their lives. They thought they were immune to this. They were not. You see, this is the problem with chaos, mayhem. This is the problem with unleashing sociopaths. Because they actually don't care who you are. You may think you're the person in control. That's what you think.
They'll come for you too.
It will turn against you, and they will. Because you're talking about people who don't think the way you think normally. You're talking about people who don't react to the triggers that you react to normally. So long as people were marching peacefully, the opportunity to steal didn't exist. Excuse, police. That's excuse one.
Yeah.
Tear gas lobbied. Firimbi mepigwa.
Yeah.
Twende
Tuanze.
kazi. That's it. And the police know.
And that's what they do.
They know. They know full well what's going to happen. It's not that they don't know, they do. So, what's the narrative? Look at these XYZ opposition and look at what they're doing. Opposition, look at this police and look at what they're doing.
Look at what they're doing.
So, the person who bears the brunt of it is the very person whose name is being used by both parties.
Is this Mwananchi person?
This Mwananchi person, this mtu wa kawaida, the mama mboga, call this person what you like. This is the person whose name is being lobbied and being used to perpetrate whatever is being perpetrated.
And to get that place where Ndu is saying the eventual outcome is known already. Okay? So this whole thing, it's basically saying let's, shed blood here, a few pints here. Let's have one or two funerals here and there. Let's have people who are running small businesses that don't even have insurance. So if your business is torched and you're running a kiosk, you have no insurance, that's it.
It's done.
It's it. Go back home. Let's have, those 2 or 3 people. Let's see them crying on TV. Let's build this thing up so that we can end there. Are we being managed? Is this whole charade then a public management exercise?
Look,
the two leaders, President Ruto and Raila Odinga and the others around them, know the eventual thing is.
Okay, let's okay. You want to make orange juice, Abi? You need orange, and you need a blender, and you will get orange juice. You've made it before, and you've seen that if you take the orange juice and you do it like, if you take the orange and you do like this, you'll get orange juice. You've done it before, and you got the orange juice. Yes, some oranges had to die in order for the juice to come out. The blender had to mash things up for the juice to come out. You've done it. You did it again. You got the orange juice. You guys have just said it here, very simply. You know that if you do this, police will react in a certain way. You know that if, as police, you do this, people will react in a certain way. You put them all in the blender, but you know that that's going to happen because at the end of the day, you want the orange juice. For me, you already know that you're going to get orange juice if you do this. So this is what you're doing. You already know where you're going. And all these people who are caught in this, all of us who are commenting, all the people who are running in the street, people who are sitting in their houses getting tear gassed innocently, people who are trying to walk home and get their businesses thrown, all of you in the blender for the orange juice.
For the juice to come out.
And the folks who want the juice are just going to know, okay, we have to go and also mix in the blender a little bit here and there. It doesn't matter. We'll get the orange juice. You know what you want. You know how you're going to get there. People who are inside here are none the wiser, but they're being used for the outcome, and we can't see it.
You know, within Kisumu itself, I thought these gang things had passed away. But when I was looking at yesterday's mayhem, I was reminded that there were individuals who presented themselves as being pro-ODM. That's how they presented themselves. You even have some of these individuals who are now MCAs, okay, within Kisumu County. But then a rival group came into being, much younger people who were now opposed to this group who were supposed. And I thought with time all these things had died away. When I read what happened at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, I said, okay, that rivalry is back. It means these groups function because somebody sponsors them at some point. Chaos is not caused at that level because people decided to attack a mortuary.
It's not spontaneous.
No, it's not spontaneous. It is
It
not
is
spontaneous.
not.
It's targeted.
It's targeted and
It is
planned.
targeted. It's specifically, of all the things you could attack, why that?
Why go to the mortuary?
A hospital that you know benefits everybody.
Yeah.
What do you hope to gain if you do that? So, the moment there are two rival groups, there's one rival group that stands for this, the other one for this. At some level, they're all goons for hire. Now, it depends on what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. And so maybe, and even as we think about it, as we woke up this morning on Friday, one has to ask the question that then, because look, I am a firm believer in keeping the government to account at every level. It doesn't matter what government it is that you're dealing with. As citizens, as those who are in government, you have a responsibility. But it's this thing we talk about, participatory governance, the citizen side to making sure that the government of the day is doing its job. That's why you have an opposition in place to be able to make sure that you're keeping these guys righteous in whatever level. I do. But as we wake up this Friday morning, I have to ask myself, the things that are being asked for, are we any closer to the cost of living having come down today, Friday, the 31st of March?
Do you think the problems that people had last week...
Are electoral reforms now suddenly looking like they will happen by close of business today, Friday?
Nope.
Does it look as though subsidies then will come into place miraculously today because of what happened yesterday? And then let's even speak futuristically and say the mother of all demonstrations that we are being told will then happen on Monday will then happen.
Then what?
Do we see that some of these things which are being clamored for are actually going to come about and
they will tell
exist?
You, they'll give you the argument that as a result of the demonstrations and what we've had so far, as a result of the countrywide Sunday concerts, as I was calling them, and now this, as a result of the Monday demonstration, the mother of them all, you're going to have a conversation. Okay?
If one has not been heard.
Yes. And so because of that, these people who have this point to make will finally be heard. And that is what they're looking for. We want to be heard. We want the issues to be addressed. So in the end, if a conversation happens and let's say they agree, okay, so let's not have the price of unga coming down now. Let's just continue with the way you're doing fertilizer. But can we have some of our people sitting in the IEBC selection panel? That will be an outcome that they can say, you see, that's what we were gunning for. One of the things that we've gotten is that. All right, so Cherera 4 cannot be reappointed. Sawa, but okay, what else can we do?
Give us one.
All right, so give us one. Cherera 1 to become in part into the new IBC. What is it that we're going to get out of it? They'll justify it and tell you that, in the end, if we get result 40%, we will have considered that we have moved. As opposed to 6-7 weeks ago when we had 0%. when we were just being rubbished and being dismissed as these empty debba's. We're just going around the country making noise. This time, they will know that we are not just empty debba's. We have the people behind us,
And
even those that have died.
Who else do you think hears this conversation? You know, at some level, there's what we hear because it's a clamor, it's a din, you can hear it. Then there's the dog whistle. To understand that the dog whistle has been heard, you find a certain senator from Delaware. You know, Delaware is not in Western Kenya. Delaware is in the U.S.
It's not?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Comes with a group. We saw this group earlier on.
Yes, they came around September.
They've come back. What do you think is happening behind the scenes? It was reported in the dailies this week. What do you think the EU is doing? What do you think the UK is doing? You know why? All this is not good. The optics are not good for business. Okay?
And for interests of other sovereign states. It's not good.
Just take note, not good for the citizens, not good for business.
Yes.
If there's capital flight, how many billions have taken flight? That's worrying. There are these things we need to be doing in DRC and Tanzania. When you people are unstable, it's worrying.
Yes.
Okay? It's not good
We
for
have
business.
naval bases, and if you people are up and about and something happens, we need to be able to deploy our troops quickly.
Because this jumping up and down is
not
not good for business. Okay? So that's pressure. That's pressure. By the time the deputy president is choking on his words and talking about how Raila now and Ruto have to talk, what do you think has been brought to bear? You think he was saying it with ease? You listen to the conversation.
He too is no longer at ease.
You see, certain things are falling apart here. Okay? Now, it's many things happening. My question, the eternal question is, the Mwananchi whose name is used in all these things, the Mwananchi who's supposed to be represented by all these parties, does the Mwananchi really?
Where will he be left?
Exactly.
For Matar.
Yes. Are we saying that those people whose shops were torched, whose properties were burnt, are we saying that there will be some benefit given to them and say, look, this is a result? Who do you blame? Who pays you? Okay.
We are going to come back together and now put you back in business. You know, we understand that your business was torched. We understand that you were running a kiosk and it was vandalized in Kibera, in wherever, in Kisumu. We understand that you were running a supermarket and it was vandalized. Now, how much stock did you lose? Or are you saying 100 million shillings? Okay, let's work out how you can recoup the 100 million shillings. Who's going to talk to? Nobody.
Precisely.
Nobody.
In 2008, there's a trader called Wathiyomo in my little township of Moroni, whose supermarket was torched, his lorries and trailers were torched. Who compensated him? He had a Coca-Cola distributorship. It was burnt to the ground. Who compensated him? That guy was just going about his business normally, and he had been there for decades. So, when you allow this sort of behavior to take place, you don't count the losses that individuals incur. Lives are lost, livelihoods are lost. What for?
CT. Okay. In order for you to get into an activity, to start to count, to start to then be able to apologize, to start to be able to take responsibility, you have to care. You have to care. You have to give a damn about this whole thing, to be able to say, okay, actually, you know what, guys, this happened and it shouldn't happen, and this is what I'm saying. The cost of care does not rest on the shoulders of the perpetrators of this thing. The burden of care does not lie on the shoulders, because they do not. There's an outcome that they've sought. All this is the blender, and once it's done, it'll be tossed until there's need for it again. That they're not going to count those losses, that they're not going to cry that the way that you do, that their spirits will be not be vexed in the manner in which yours is this morning, because they do not care. If you do not care, they will move on very quickly. The person who has to build his business from scratch again is the one who's going to worry. The one who has to bury her son on a rainy morning is the one who will worry. The one who has to then be very careful about where their children tread to go to school are the ones who are going to worry. Those then who will receive an outcome for which all this is being played out do not care. I'm telling you.
You don't do.
They don't.
Don't you see that even the people we are referring to as perpetrators the shoplifters, the arsonists, these are victims.
They're victims. They're pawns.
These police lobbing tear gas arms with a picture of a gun on his shoulder, looking very angry. That guy is a victim. He may think.
You may think he's inside the
No,
movement.
he doesn't. They don't see it. They are victims. You are being put in a place where you're fighting your own citizens. You're causing harm to your own citizens. And you think this thing that you're doing is a good thing. How is it a good thing?
You gave a picture when we were having a coffee the other day, and you talked about the policemen who having a conversation with people. Do you think that somebody somebody that I don't know, can I just walk up to you and start talking to you randomly? Okay, I could be if I was a bit loony, but okay. What I'm trying to say is that there is a relationship that has already been fostered. These people know one another.
Of course they do.
People in these communities, police service, chief, human, they know each other. So you mean to tell me that suddenly now, because of this,
because of the price of unga,
the price of unga, now they are fighting.
These two people will fight because of the price of unga and their neighbors.
No, please.
Did you see this picture of Migori County where there's a lady with a big bottle of water, giving policemen to wash their faces because of the tear gas?
Yeah.
The other pictures look. That picture tells you these people have no real enmity with each other.
No.
Because if there was, that would not happen. That little action you saw there would not occur. So, who do you think are the victims here? And who are the real perpetrators? Because that's a question that you need to ask.
And the bottom line is that those that are in leadership positions, you saw the oath of office to be the President of the Republic of Kenya, to protect the Constitution and the lives of the people of Kenya. You have a responsibility, Mr. President. Raila Odinga, you have not taken any oath of office, but you have a leadership responsibility to the people of Kenya, to the security and safety of the people of Kenya. Same to Martha Karua, and more importantly, to all the elected members of parliament who have a responsibility. This mambo of cost of unga, MPs, what are you doing about it? How much have you allocated in the budget so that it can go to this thing that you're calling?
Whatever you're calling
it.
How much? And then you'll tell us, oh, you don't have powers in parliament. We elected you, then resign. We'll put somebody else who can actually do the job. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we speak to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, the Honorable Aden Duale. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has announced the establishment of a 67 billion shillings mRNA vaccine facility in Nairobi. He said Kenyan Moderna has finalized the deal to build the facility, saying it will be the only one in the African continent. The head of state said the project by Moderna will also be their first outside the United States.
I want to highlight the medical and pharmaceutical sector, where I have a major announcement to make today. It is with pleasure that I announce a finalized deal between Moderna and the government of Kenya to build a $500 million mRNA vaccine facility in Nairobi.
The president made the remarks during the American Chamber of Commerce Regional Summit held in Nairobi. At the same time, President Ruto assured investors that Kenya's business environment is stable and conducive for investment.
I am committed to make Kenya one of the most attractive places to do business. As you may know, Kenya has been ranked the third most attractive place to do business in Africa by World Bank under its ease of doing business scheme. We continue to build on this success story. We are also reviewing our special economic zones and export processing zones laws to remove impediments to attracting new local and foreign investments. The raft of amendments are under stakeholder consultations, and Moses Kuria will bear me witness, and we intend to have a new set of incentives by July 1 this year.
The Teacher Service Commission, Burabu branch, has launched investigations into the alleged beating of a grade 4 pupil at Riangombe Primary School. The teacher, Jackson Marusha, is alleged to have given him more than 100 strokes that left him with serious injuries and admitted to the hospital. TSC official Ndombi Shivachi says that investigations must be done so that justice is served.
Tumefika hapa Ng'ombe Adventist Primary School boarding kwa sababu ya kesi ambayo inahusu mtoto wa grade 4 ambaye alichapwa, na kwa hivyo tuliraukia hapa mapema mwendo wa saa 11 ili kuchunguza tupate ukweli wa mambo, lakini uchunguzi bado unaendelea, na baada ya uchunguzi tutatoa ripoti kamili kuhusu yale ambayo tumepata.
A timely and swift police action repulsed an attack on Kedong Ranch at the border of Narok East and Naivasha sub-counties. A joint team of police officers from Narok East was on patrol along the Susu-Baimahi road when it came across armed messiahs planning to invade the 75,000-acre land. Narok East Police Commander Jared Marandoe, who had deployed anti-riot officers in the wake of anti-government protests by Azimio Moja leader Raila Odinga, managed to avert the situation. The land in Naivasha constituency goes all the way to Narok East constituency on the west and Kajiado West constituency on the east. The Baimahi Narok Road passes across the land. This is not the first time residents have threatened to forcefully repossess the land which they claim was grabbed under the former administration. And Riyadh Member of Parliament Otiende Amolo says that no one, including President William Ruto, can ban the ongoing Azimio la Umoja coalition protest. Amolo said protest under Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya doesn't grant anybody the power to either end or recommence the demonstrations. This after Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki pointed out that while the police have done everything within the law to protect the lives and property of non-protesters and third parties, regular protesters continue to engage in seriously violent, chaotic and disorderly conduct, endangering the national security. And celebrated rally ace Maxine Wahome has been freed on a 2 million shillings cash bail following an application by her lawyers in a murder case. Maxine was freed when Justice Lilian Mutende established that she was not a flight risk and has not interfered with witnesses or was likely as claimed by the prosecution. Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji had opposed Maxine's release, arguing that she is a flight risk and likely to interfere with witnesses, but the judge was not convinced. Maxine denies killing her boyfriend Asad Khan, who succumbed to injuries in a hospital after an alleged fight at the Kileleshwa home in December. And the East African community has launched the 2022 Reproductive, Maternal, Newborn, Child and Adolescent Health Digital Scorecard for the government of Zanzibar. Officiating the launch of the scorecard, the Minister of Health in the revolutionary government of Zanzibar, Nasura Ahmed Mazrui, said that the digital scorecard was an innovative intervention aimed at promoting accountability while improving access to health data, information and knowledge sharing for better results, better tracking and stronger oversight for women's and children's health. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, busy in most parts of the city this morning. We're looking at a heavy coming off of Jogo Road. Landis Road in and outbound is crazy right about now, more than bumper to bumper, and it's spilling over towards the Kamkunji roundabout onto Haile Selassie. There's a little bit of traffic that's coming in from Gong Road, and it's going to collide with what's happening on Haile Selassie. And we're looking at a heavy coming off Gong Road as well. That whole area really busy. It's going to spill over through to Westlands, where then there's traffic on James Gishuru, and it goes towards Wayaki Way into the CBD. And we're also looking at traffic coming off of the Thika Superhighway, and there's outbound traffic as well. It is the weekend, and we know that folks are going to be going out. All right, some of it also coming off of Kiambu Road continues to be busy. We're into traffic hour proper now. Let's keep an eye on things. What's happening where you are? There's a bit of a drizzle in certain parts of the city, so please be careful. Drizzle means slippery roads, so slow down just a little bit. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
8.
The only one.
Welcome to the third hour of the Situation Room. We're live on SpiceFM, live streaming the show now on YouTube and Facebook. We had a technical problem earlier, and we're also live on KTN Home. Have you sent the text 2 Rivers to 22365? Please do. You'll receive response from Centum Real Estate. They'll tell you about the apartments that are putting up at 2 Rivers mixed-use development area, and how you can get into owning them. And they can also advise you on how you can get a mortgage from your bank, from your SACCO, how you can even get a KMRC mortgage at less than 10%, about 8 to 9%, can you imagine? And the tenure that goes from 15 years onwards, and it remains fixed at that entry percentage point. What better way to think of owning a home than by doing that? So text the words 2 Rivers, send that message to 22365. We now have another guest in the studio, and this is the Cabinet Secretary for Defence, the Honourable Ednah. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning.
Karibu sana.
Ramadan Kareem.
That's what I was about to tell you, Ramadan Kareem.
Yes.
How is the mfungo taking you?
Very good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Kabisa.
So now I think the 8th day, 9th day. So we are moving.
Very good.
Yes.
You're used to doing
We are praying
this.
for the country and everybody.
It's important to do this. It's important. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa. Before we get into the mix of the conversation, let CT give you the day's proverb. It's from the DRC.
Yes, this is our final day of Proverbs from the DRC.
Yes.
Friendship does not need pepper to cry.
Friendship does not need pepper to cry.
No.
What do you understand from that, CS?
That you don't need true friendship. It's in the heart. You don't need to rub pepper into your eyes and fake tears, crocodile tears. Friendship must be a true friendship. Is the one that is in the heart.
When your friend is in pain,
Yes.
you will feel the pain.
You don't even need to cry.
You will feel
the
the
whole
pain.
body will feel.
When your friend is happy, you'll also be as joyful as they are.
And not because our troops are in DRC Congo. I didn't have a prayer. I've never heard of this. But it's a good one.
He knew that you were coming.
No.
And that's why he came up with this particular one.
Yeah.
From the DRC, and this particular one about friendship.
These proverbs are prepared weeks in advance, in fact. But everyone who comes here, you see now, what you've just said is now what confirms the veracity of Proverbs. Because they can be applied to almost any situation. You can be in one situation and a proverb is uttered and you can see exactly where it fits in. Yes.
So this is one particular
This is one
case.
of them, yes.
Okay. Mheshimiwa, how are troops doing in the DRC?
Oh, it's a very complex theater, but we're managing. At least our objectives were 3, so I think 2 were doing very well. We have opened the humanitarian corridors, so humanitarian assistance is flowing in those eastern part of DRC. Our second mandate was under ICRAF, was to make sure that we protect civilians, population. We are doing that to a great extent. We have neutralized the situation now, but still we have few skirmishes between M23 and the other armed groups. And then we are also giving chance to the peace process. Ours is the military track, so the peace process, the Luanda process, the Nairobi process by the former president. But it's a very complex, DRC is very complex for a number of reasons. One, there are over 100 different armed groups. Then there is a regional politics, the politics between Rwanda, DRC, Uganda, and many, many others. And then Congo is a huge country with huge resources, so the players and both internationally and locally and regionally who have other interests are very complex. But I think now East Africa Regional Force is now, I think, 85% complete in terms of deployment. We're only waiting for Uganda and partly South Sudan to deploy in their areas.
How long do you give this, our troops, our boots being on the ground in DRC?
We have asked for 6 months to 1 year. Now I think we're about to finish the 6 months, but we took time to deploy. So basically we are there 3 months, 3.5 months. But we have a moral duty as a country, not only in DRC but in our region, to make sure that there's peace and security in our region. So we can't look at it. We can't just walk out of DRC.
It can't be that because it's now 1 year. We go home. We have to stay until the job gets done.
Yes. Just like Somalia, we went there 15 years ago, and now we are there. And every day we ask. But you see, for the first time, if you look at the other side of Somalia, there's very good development. Now, for the first time, you see a Somali national force coming to the theater fighting Al-Shabaab. It was not there before. So I think all the troop contributing countries and the international partners, the US, the UK, Turkey, the Gulf states who are training and contributing in fourth generation, now we see the results. And then now we have a government led by Hassan Sheikh that has a political will on security and fighting against Al-Shabaab, closing their taps, financial taps, fighting them ideologically, going to the front. For the first time, I think Al-Shabaab is under pressure. They used to be the aggressors in most of the instances, but now they're under pressure. So there's some development, better than before.
Interesting to see. Waziri, I'm just still a little bit on the DRC issue. Kenya going in to DRC. Is it to bring about a situation of peace that would foster development and then stability in the region? Whereas when we look at the political side of things, previously people who have gone into DRC have done so that they can now tap into these resources that you've mentioned. So which one is it from where Kenya's policy is on going into DRC? Is it playing Big Brother to really make sure that peace and stability is maintained in the region for development?
Number one, Kenya, we are not there by ourselves. We have gone there based on the decision of the heads of state of the East Africa community, which DRC is a member, at their summit, I think last year, in the previous administration, which decided that they must deploy to do 3 things: open up corridors of humanitarian corridors, protect civilians, and make sure that they disarm and carry a disarmament program on the 100+ different armed groups. But when we went to that theater, the theater now is very complex. I mean, there are many competing regional interests, international interests. Every country, many countries in the European Union have interest because it was a former Belgium colony. The French have interest. So what is the stake at Kenya? I mean, apart from those 3 main objectives that I have said, we also have an economic interest because DRC used the port of Mombasa. There's a huge trade between Kenya and DRC. Kenyan key banks are the main financial hubs in that country. KCB has a very huge presence. Equity Bank has a huge presence. There's a very huge Kenyan population in DRC doing business. So outside helping the DRC government in maintaining law and order and protecting civilians, which is an obligation of the East Africa, is one of the obligations under the articles of the East Africa Community Protocol, then I think we have an economic interest. Yes. Yeah.
It's a big one.
A big one.
Let's come back locally and let's start with what's currently happening. In terms of the demonstrations that we've seen so far in the country, the calls for the demonstrations based on several areas that the leadership of the Azimio have said, we want to have a conversation about the cost of living, we want to have a conversation about electoral reforms, we want to have a conversation about participation of everybody in governance and in leadership. What have you seen so far and what's your comment?
It is a very, very sad situation that Kenya is a very great country in the region. Kenya has a very strong place geopolitically. But Kenya is always taken down this kind of situation by the internal politics we have in our country after every elections. So right now, if you look at what is going on, in my honest opinion, and even as a security minister, it's no longer a demonstration. It's no longer picketing. What is happening, in my opinion, because I joined Parliament in 2007, so I have the history of the post-election violence. What is happening is exactly a post-election scenario. Why do I say so? And with a lot of respect, what are the issues? Let's ask ourselves. One of the issues is, let me start with the IBC. IBC, the same law that has been used in recruiting these current commissioners, is the same law that was used by President Uhuru Kenyatta in recruiting the 4 commissioners, the Charera 4. There is nothing that has been subtracted, added. I mean, I'm the one who passed that law, and it was passed by the House. Where even you have key bodies, it's no longer. Where you have key bodies, the only thing that was done was reduce the number of the political parties' representation. And in fact, if you ask me today, in fact, the political parties should absolutely have no representation in the selection of the referee and the linesmen and women. That was our position even before. So, but because of the tension that then, it was agreed the Parliamentary Service Commission will produce 4 people. I think now they have 2 people. But if you ask me, political parties should be outside the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. They should be an independent arbiter. So they're saying we must be on the table, that this referee and linesmen must be chosen and given to political parties. And you know, people are quoting IPPG. IPPG has been overtaken by the new constitution. You know, IPPG happened during Moi's time. There is a new constitution that has created very robust independent institutions, which can only report to Parliament. You know, the Auditor General, the DPP, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, the control of budget. Those are very key independent institutions. The other issue people are talking about is the cost of living. You know, the cost of living.
I think was it before we move out of the IBC issue?
Yes.
I think we had the Senator for Nairobi here the other day, and the issue is you still retained the politicians in the selection panel. 2 coming from the Parliamentary Service Commission, 2 coming from the Parliamentary Liaison Committee. What their complaint is
political
parties liaison committee. What their complaint is that even the 2 that are coming from the Parliamentary Service Commission, it was not specific that they shall be 1 from minority, 1 from majority. So they don't have a representative there.
No.
And in the political parties liaison committee, they also don't have a voice. So they don't have a representative there. And then you have the presidential appointee, who is the Public Service Commission. So their argument is that the president has his people, 2 from Parliament, 2 from the political party liaison, 1 from the Public Service Commission.
In fact, the Political Parties Liaison Committee is run by the major political parties. They have got serious membership. UDA, ODM, the big parties in this country. So they can't argue about it. Me and you people and myself cannot have a say in the political parties liaison. But the membership of the political parties liaison committee is mainly the political parties. And the bigger seats are taken over by the bigger parties. Come to the Parliamentary Service Commission, it's ideally the minority versus the majority. But if you refuse to come to the table where the clerks of the National Assembly and the Parliamentary Commission are selecting, and you have not brought the name to represent you, then you cannot at the same time refused to come to the table. Sifuna and his leadership and Mheshimiwa Wandai, a man I have a lot of respect for, refused to submit a name. They refused to come to the table. Then at the same time, they are saying
include us in the list.
Include us. Just like the way they are saying the President William Ruto should fix the cost of living. On the same other side of the mouth, they are saying Ruto must go. You know, you have to choose you have to choose one position. But let me go to the cost of living. The cost of living was with us for the last 2 years. And in fact, if you ask me, it was worse during the last regime. That's why there was huge subsidy in food, in fuel. But people will be shocked in this country that those subsidies ideally were not meant for the common man. And that's why the prices did not go. You have heard about the 34 billion fuel subsidy. It's a major, major scandal that this country will be shocked. The same with the food. The millers are saying, we have not been paid. So they were only promised because of the campaign. But let me come to the whole thing. So today, the cost of living is affected by factors outside the boundaries of the Republic of Kenya. You can go to any country. You look at even the fall of the shilling. You look at Egypt. You look at there are Kenyans who export tea and coffee to countries like Egypt. Now they can't get money because of the issue of the forex. They have supplied people. They have sent tons. So the forex issue is a global issue. Look at the drought that we have faced. God is great. He has opened the skies. Now we have water everywhere. But before that, we had the worst drought. That's going to affect food security. Look at the global situation. The Ukraine, the green baskets of the world. Ukraine, Russia. Nothing is coming from outside. So the whole issue, in fact, is not even cost of living. I mean, it's good. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga just comes out. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga just wants to come into government. He wants into government. I have worked with him. In fact, let me just say now, my famous book now is published. I think the first week of May I'm going to launch it.
Ah, nice.
Now it's with the printer and everything is done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to your guys in Standard or Nation to do some serialization.
Yeah.
But I know him. He wants to be in government. And he must find a way to dialogue. The irony is, he doesn't want his members of parliament from his backyard to dialogue with the government. But he wants to dialogue with the government.
Why wouldn't he want that, Waziri? Why wouldn't he want his members of parliament?
I think it's because of the tradition that he has and the precedent that has been set. That he shared government with Mzee Moi when they formed the NDP-KANU alliance. It happened in the post-election violence. I was one of the members of parliament in 2007. And a number of us said it in the Pentagon. We have, in our own opinion, we look like we have been denied our win. But if we can't get it, for the sake of the people of Kenya, let us take the opposition benches. Because we were more than PNU then. We were 106. But Prime Minister Raila Odinga got so excited, the motor riders and all that. So he went into government. A lot of frustration happened, but he had his piece of the cake. Then came 2017. After election had been resolved, the Supreme Court has confirmed and stamped the result. A true Democrat needs to go and take his place in the opposition. People go to elections to do two things, form a government and form the opposition. Look at our scenario in 2022. I have sat with ambassadors, Western ambassadors, and they told me, during the time of the bombers, they told me your system of elections is more democratic, is more watertight than even in our own countries. Why do I say so? The 2017 Supreme Court made our elections the best in the world by saying the ultimate result will be at the polling station. The portal. You are sitting here. You could tally and add the votes and declare. You didn't have the powers. You had to wait for IBC. But even media houses, individuals could do that. So I think it's very, very unfortunate, very sad for a leader of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga to take the country through this kind of demonstrations. You look at Anyang' Nyong'o. Professor Anyang' Nyong'o saw what happened on Monday, this Monday, in Kisumu. As a very responsible leader, he said, no demonstrations. And when he reverted back, when he rescinded his decision, I remember he said, but the demonstration should not affect the business of my city. Look what happened yesterday. Supermarkets, I think an institution that he opened 3 weeks ago. But I want to confirm to you that I think this government and even future governments must stamp the constitution and the rule of law. They must not succumb to impunity. What is Raila Odinga is doing is impunity. And outside that, there is the element and the extension of the President Kenyatta's hand in all this.
How?
No, of course.
How so?
I am a security minister. I will not tell you what is there. I mean, when I talk to you, it's not the Minister of Agriculture talking to you.
It is the...
And what is President Kenyatta afraid of? President Kenyatta ran the last 5 years of his administration. He ran the worst state capture under his watch. He ran the worst extrajudicial killings that happened in our country. You were here. People's bodies were being dumped in River Yala. He's protecting his interests. And as late as of yesterday, the Kenyatta family were involved even in yesterday's demonstrations.
When we say involved, Mheshimiwa, we do not see the former president on top of any of the vehicles. We do not see any of his family members, at least the ones that we know publicly.
Demonstrations and picketing and all what's happening in our country is a process. So you can be at the tail end of the process.
So at what point...
You don't need to see him there.
At what point would you say that these are the external factors?
While I'm sitting here, if I can be an evil man, I can carry serious demonstrations and deaths in Garissa today by just funding, by just creating the environment. You don't need to be in Garissa. You don't need to be. That's why if you.
What would the funds be used for?
And
is
also,
it fueling
of what
the vehicles?
would it be?
Many.
Is it
today? If you get today, I'm sure if I give you money today, or I tell you to prepare a budget for a function, you'll prepare many things. You don't need. You'll give me.
I'll give you
some items will be very high. Some items will be. Yeah. So it's very, very sad that, the same narrative that William Ruto will not become a president. That did not pass. Now they think Uhuru Kenyatta thinks that he can stop William Ruto from governing the country by using Raila Odinga and the Azimio leadership. But at the end of the day, it's Kenya being destroyed. But as a minister and who sits in cabinet, we will uphold the constitution. We will uphold the rule of law. We will allow and protect Kenyans to do their business. Look at the statement given out by the international community. Their first paragraph was about last election. They never spoke about the cost of living, did they?
No.
Because they know the cost of living is an issue in their own country. Even interest rates today are the highest in the US. So I think I really want to take this opportunity to urge the Kenyan media. They have a country to protect. You know what the media has done in our region, You remember the Rwanda genocide. I think the Kenyan media has come of age. I can say it's one of the best media in our region, if not in Africa. But I think they have a moral responsibility
to do so.
To protect, help government protect their lives and their property, report factual. You might not like William Ruto, or the owner of that media station might not like William Ruto, but I think all of us in government, outside government, ordinary citizens, we must protect our country not to slide into that.
Mheshimiwa, I want us to take a break. But before we take a break, I just want to confirm something.
Yes.
Once again, you are Cabinet Secretary for Defense.
Yes.
You sit in the National
Security
Council.
Yes.
You consume the highest level of intelligence in this country.
Yes.
And you have sat here this morning.
Yes.
And you have directly and expressly said that the former president is funding instability in the country. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And this is from what you consume as national intelligence.
I am telling you, that's why I told you in the beginning, I am not the Minister for Agriculture. I'm a minister who sits in the National Security Council. the footprints of the Kenyatta family is found in all these demonstrations and in all this chaos. And not only us, even our international partners are aware.
The National Security Council.
We are telling President Kenyatta, follow the footsteps of your predecessors.
The National Security Council.
In fact, if there's a president who was removed out in a very acrimonious way, was President Moi. You know what happened in Uhuru Park?
Yes.
If there was a president who should have been very bitter, should have been President Moi. But President Moi handed over power in that kind of a situation and remained and lived by the tenets of the law of retirement presidents and their benefits.
Waziri.
Yeah.
After you've consumed this intelligence at the National Security Council, and then you go and sit in cabinet, of course you're the one who then alerts the other members of the cabinet.
National Security Council stuff is not discussed in parliament, in
cabinet. But then you advise the president on what should be done. What is the advice that you're giving? Once you've consumed this intelligence, that you can pinpoint the instability that we are witnessing the beginnings of are stemming from this particular source. What is the solution?
The solution is this, and very simple. Why is the Kenyatta family involved in causing this instability? They are the richest family not in Kenya, in Africa. Is that, and they have sent emissaries. Let me even be very clear. They have sent emissaries that the Kenyatta, the former president, and his family should be left alone. Nobody can guarantee them that.
Why not?
No, let me tell you. That guarantee given to them should also be given that guarantee to ordinary citizens like you and me. If there is an audit issue, for example, on the subsidy, and it falls within the former administration of Kenyatta, the public and parliament and institutions will discuss. His former ministers, if they have issues, the independent institutions can still carry. It happened not only in this presidency, it happened in previous presidency under the NAC administration. So you're asking me what advice do we give to the president?
Yes.
And that's why the president is very consistent. The whole shenanigans, what is going on, is to have a handshake, bring Raila Odinga into government so that he can hold brief and do bidding for the Kenyatta family on the crimes that has been committed against the people of Kenya during their last 4 years of their administration. So what is the advice? The president has been very consistent that he will at all times uphold the constitution, the rule of law, protect the citizens' right and property and lives, and that he will not allow, he will be the president that will make sure that the law and the constitution is followed. And that's why even outside this chaos, will be the administration that will, and we'll talk about it, the president will bring an end to banditry in the North Rift.
In the North Rift.
Yes.
Is there,
so that is the advice we have given to the president. He has been very consistent.
Is there advice on the route to justice, bringing those who are behind this to justice?
Behind which now? Which is it?
There's instability that you're talking about. These individuals within the Kenyatta family. Take them to court, anyone?
You know, that is not even, it is not a function of the president or the cabinet. That is a function of independent institutions. The EACC, the DPP, the police, the controller of budget. She's already talking that in 3 days to the election, on the election day, when me and you were voting, there were people who were forcing her to allow withdrawal of 15 billion. The Auditor General, you know. These are the institutions that the 2010 Constitution has created. It's not for William Ruto. William Ruto and his government will just give the policy direction. So I think my advice, and I have worked with him for 8.5 years, he's a very good friend of mine, the former president. My advice is emulate the former presidents. And I don't think William Ruto is not the person to be scared. It's not somebody that you can push him. Because he has one thing which is important, even important for somebody like me who come from a minority community in our country. Everybody in this country will always be protected by the Constitution and by institutions like the judiciary.
Let's take
so
a
William
break.
must protect and must defend the Constitution.
Let's take a break. It's 23 minutes to 9. The Cabinet Secretary for Defence, the Honourable Ednah Duale, is our guest this morning. Mheshimiwa, later in the evening, during iftar, remember everything else that you'll see on the table? Add Minute Maid there. Ndu, please tell me why.
Taking a break has been proven to help improve your focus and productivity while also boosting your immune system and reducing stress levels. Imagine that at the end of the day. Minute Maid is the perfect drink to help you take a break from all your musings and your worries. Re-energize your body and mind, whether you're working from home, running errands, or celebrating iftar later in the evening. With all the flavors that Minute Maid has to offer, take an moment with Minute Maid.
We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler? Who's a hustler?
Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Yeah.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, traffic coming in on Jogo Road, still heavy. Look at Landis, guys. In and outbound traffic is quite a thing. And folks are looking for alternate routes to come off the thicker superhighway. Outer Ring might be an option for you to come round and then use Mombasa Road, which, interestingly enough, you'll get all the way to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then you'll be fine off onto Huru Highway. Thicker superhighway is still heavy. And look at Kiambu Road. In and outbound traffic is crazy. James Gishuru, a little bit of traffic here and there, as well as Waiyaki Way. Certain parts of the city really crazy, but we should be able to get through it. We're still in traffic hour. Let's see how Friday morning turns out to be. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
With the Honourable Ednah Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Defence. He's here, so we talk about what the government is doing to end terrorism and banditry attacks in the country. And that is one of the things, Mheshimiwa. So, right now, just the other day, MP Naisola Lisuda was speaking to a community and saying, look, and the community was complaining. We have been talking about insecurity in our area for years. We know there's a government operation taking place. We know that the KDF has also been incorporated into this operation. We are not feeling the effect or impact of all those things that you're talking about. We're still seeing people being attacked. We're still seeing people being killed. If we don't deal with it, wacha hiyo maandamano unasema tutalete maandamano Nairobi muone.
No, you're not feeling it. I want you to go to those 6 counties. Please take a crew, go to those 6 counties.
Our crews, Mheshimiwa, are in those 6 counties. And the stories that have come with
Yeah.
Samburu, people complaining. We talk about Baringo, people complaining. Elgeyo Marakwet, people complaining.
Yes.
West Pokot,
I agree with you. There are some isolated, premeditated killings. And why do I call it isolated, premeditated? We used to have bandits moving in groups, attacking a manyatta, taking over 200, 300 heads of cattle. You have not seen that in the last 1.5 months. You'll just see, if you look at what's happening between the Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet, those are isolated, premeditated murder. In fact, we have sent a team of the DCI because we see it's more of homicide. somebody coming, shooting one person in a farm, going away, or stealing one goat, two goats. So the overall infrastructure of the banditry in that 6 counties has been completely reduced, if you ask me. It has been neutralized. What we are doing, you're going to see in the next 2 weeks, is that we are rebuilding back schools. Already we have a list from all the 6 counties. Our team of engineers, the engineering brigade of the Kenya Defence Forces, will be on site from next week. We want to build all the schools. A number of schools have now been reopened. We want to bring back all the children back to those schools. If possible, turn those schools into boarding schools and make sure government gives food to those children throughout the year. It becomes a policy. So one of our key areas is to bring back children to school. We have already opened all the roads. There were roads which were never passable. You know, the people in that area lived under impunity and a very bad culture. They were under these bandits for all successive governments. So when they had the Kenya Defence Forces going, they want quick results. They want, like, in 1 week, we should. But take into consideration the terrain of that area, how remote it is. Even the constituency called Tiati alone is about 60% of Baringo County. No roads, no water. So we are taking, I'm taking next week to cabinet, not to cabinet, to the National Security Council, a long-term policy strategy for those regions. What do I mean? A Marshall Plan, that government must invest in more water pans. Government must have a special policy on education where we put boarding schools, where specific roads, security roads are built in that area, where electricity is provided, and make sure those people feel they are part and parcel of the country. For many of them, they are forced into this trade because of the historical, marginalization. So I think it's a whole program, but I want to assure the people of Kenya that Kenya Defence Forces there are now under Article 241, sub-article, I think 3B. If it means telling the police to get out and we go in and we apply Article 241, I think 3C, like it was done many years ago under the old constitution in Mount Elgon, we will go. Because, in summary, if we don't fix this problem, we will have what is happening in DRC Congo. We will have what is happening in Mozambique. These pastoralists, these bandits will be enticed. They will entice other terrorist groups with a bigger capability to come and join them. And it will be very difficult for our country to handle later. So we better deal with this matter once and for all. And what was lacking was the political will. I remember when I was the leader of majority, every time there's an incident and an operation is sent, after 3 weeks, the leadership of that region, that county, will go to the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and they will cry, whether from Samburu County or West Pokot or Turkana or Elgeyo. And the President will now tell the commanders, come back. But this time, I want to assure the people of Kenya, this administration and the President's political commitment is there. We will be the administration that will finish banditry, not only in North Rift, but even in the whole of the northern Kenya.
So, Waziri, are you saying that now what we're saying is because all of whatever action might be taken by Kenya Defence Forces or anybody else, the thing that is going to catalyze or guarantee that this will come to an end is political will? And I'll add some things to that. We saw that the CS for Interior going into the area and talking about, look, I'll camp here if I have to, has been there several times. But then, we still see the same kind of action happening. The guarantee that folks are looking for is, what is it that will be done differently beyond the political will? I can want to do something, but if I don't actually do it, I won't, you won't see any result. So what is a guarantee that people can go home with literally every day, knowing that this thing will come to an end?
Yes, first let me give the commitment. And I want to be judged by this as a Minister for Defense. This administration we will bring an end to banditry in North Rift. It can take 1 year, it can take 2 years, it can take 6 months. We will bring to an end. Secondly, as you said, yes, it's the same thing. People want quick fix, and this is a systemic. It needs a community view to be changed. It needs community livelihood to be looked at. It needs the education of those young people to be looked at. So there are many other factors that are important. But I think even you people will agree with me that we should not have a part of our country that is chaotic, that is ungovernable. So, and not only from the security point of view, that part of the country must be like other parts of the country.
It must catch up with the rest in terms
there must
of
be
development.
roads. There must be a deliberate effort and affirmative action by the national government in making sure. Why do they fight? It's because of drought is one of them, but there must be provision of water. There must be schools. Their children. I'll give you a good example. In Samburu County, there's one part of Samburu County where there's even no Moranism, because people have gone to school. The best of the best elite community comes from one part of Samburu. So we must make sure we invest heavily in water, in education, in infrastructure, in job creation for the youth in the other parts of this region. So it's not only security. I think, I don't want to blame, but I think the successive governments left this area unattended. And I think we have a moral duty and a constitutional duty to make sure that these regions are like any other part of Kenya. Their children go to school. If people ask me, what is emergency? There are thousands and thousands of children who are not going to school. There are thousands and thousands of women who can even access small businesses. Roads have been blocked by marauding bandits. This will come to an end.
Who is behind this, Mheshimiwa? We always, the other day, the Interior CS said, I'm going to name the financiers, the religious leaders. Who's behind this? Because it's not a new thing.
I agree with you. This is a huge industry. We must, and I'm sure we are on that line. We are finding out these animals which are stolen. It must end up in butcheries. It must end up in high-end restaurants in Nairobi. So it's a whole chain. We want to find out who buys, who transports.
You want to find out?
No. We are finding. We are finding, and we have names. And we don't want to say the names just for the sake of saying it. We have already found, and they are under custody of religious leaders who cleanse these boys when they are going to war to go and kill. They bless them, and when they come back, they cleanse them, and they are given part of the loot of the animals stolen. There are political leaders who use these scenarios and all these things for their own political mileage in every election. So I agree with you. There's a whole industry, and I think for it to come to an end, you don't only cut one branch. Or that's the branch that depicts the bandit who's carrying the gun. No, you need to uproot the whole tree. And that is coming.
Mheshimiwa, the region that you come from, right up to, we go to the side of Marsabit, we go to the side of Wajir. That community in the previous century were pastoralists, they were nomadic.
Yes.
That community, the very things you're saying, they had no roads, completely neglected. The community in that part of the country have turned around completely. People go to school. They become a business force in the country. Now, that's a turnaround. It's a model. It's happened in Kenya as we watch.
Yes.
We don't have to import that particular model. We've seen it. The terrain is not dissimilar. In fact, some of those areas are better because you can even farm.
Yes.
In that northern part of the country, farming is something you can discuss if you wish, but it's not an activity that will be favored now. How does one borrow a leaf from what has been done and has been seen and has succeeded, so that when you talk of a Marshall Plan, our friends in the North Rift, our citizens, our brothers and sisters can also say, it has worked. This is the path you follow to getting there.
But the difference is one. In the counties of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and even the Maasai counties of Kajiado, Narok, Somalis and the Maasai, they fight, and there's insecurity in the area, not on cattle rustling. They don't steal cattle from each other. They fight over pasture, they fight over clan. So you cannot use them. But they share the marginalization. I agree with you. But these 6 counties, particularly Pokot, Baringo, Turkana, and Elgeyo Marakwet, and a bit of Marsabit, there is a currency, there is a common denominator of perpetuity stealing of cattle and animals, whether it's cows or goats or camels. So before we even reach that situation where they should now emulate from the other part of the north to go into business, you must first provide the infrastructure. You must provide them. And the terrain is different. In the north is a flat land. But the terrain we have in West Pokot, in Samburu, in Turkana, in Elgeyo Marakwet is a very, very difficult terrain. In fact, now we are using our special forces. We are using highly mechanized equipment to go into those regions. And they are very, very dangerous for our ordinary security officers. We don't want to, that's why we are taking it with a strategy. We don't want to fall into what happened in Baragoi. You remember where 3-4 dozens of police officers were killed. So we don't want to go into those regions. Now that's why we have to use a different method. If you go to those particular areas where the terrain is very bad, we are using our best of our special forces that ideally were trained to fight terror. Now we have to, who can walk at night, who use night vision equipment. So I think I agree with you, but I think before we reach where now they can do business, you must have the environment. If it is insecure,
you must pacify the area.
You must pacify the area. So I think our first stage is to pacify. The second stage, concurrently, is to open the roads, build schools, make sure the trading centers are peaceful and people can do business. Then, in fact, these other communities you're talking about in the north will even go to those areas, open up business, and they can learn from them. But I want to tell the people of Kenya that I think, me included, in the previous administration and other governments, I think we failed our duty. This should have been done long time ago. Should have been done long time ago.
And that's what I want to ask, because it's a problem that has persisted for decades. It has been there since the Moi era, into the Kibaki era, into the Uhuruto era, into the... So you divided them, Uhuruto A and Uhuruto handshake era. And now
Uhuru Raila and Uhuru Ruto. Yeah.
Into this era.
Yes.
It's been going on for long. We have the same structure of security. And that's why I want to ask, are you saying that you do not have access to intelligence that shows you who's actually been behind this, who's been benefiting from this, and how you can deal with them immediately? I understand you sending troops into those caves to deal with the people who are carrying the arms. But who's funding them? Who's supplying them with the arms? Who is taking away the livestock? Who's bringing the livestock to the market or wherever the livestock goes? Those people.
So you want me to discuss operations here?
No, I want you to take them to court.
No, I can't. I'm very sorry.
We want to see them in court.
We don't expect you to discuss it.
From where I sit, there are certain information, of all the information that is under our custody, there are certain information that are for the public. There are certain information that are privileged.
Keep the privileged information.
Yeah, but
we want to see the results.
Yes.
And the question I'm asking
and that is why I'm
what's the journey to the result? Because everything you're talking about is how to pacify the area, how to bring the roads and everything. But in terms of justice, in terms of nipping the people in the bud, how do we see action that removes the financiers from this equation?
Right now, what you want me to do, which I will not, you want me to give you how many animals we have recovered, how many people we have arrested, how many religious leaders we have in custody.
I want you to tell me how many financiers and enablers are there.
And how many financiers we have already...
how many are there?
There are many.
Have you established?
Yeah, there are many. Even the telephones that we have received from some of these bandits that have been neutralized, there are people who are analyzing them. And we are getting very strange connections to key leaders and to financiers.
So does it suffice to say that as that process is going on, what essentially you're saying, Waziri, is that as that process is going on, establishing who does what and who speaks where and what the networks are, you will not then be able to act until you have a full picture of what's happening? Is that what we're saying?
You know, what we are doing, as I told you, is multi-faced. We are on the ground. Our special teams are on the ground. There are enough equipment on the ground, making sure that every morning we secure those areas. We recover if there are any of stolen animals. We hunt those bandits everywhere in the regions. Based on the information we are getting, we are trying to see the element which is very important. Who are the financiers? Who are in this industry? Who are in this? Who have been here in all this period? Who are the religious leaders who are behind it? All that so they're all running concurrently. And a time will come when the Minister for Interior, not very soon, he will come out and say, these are the people we have and we will charge them, and this is the evidence that
you have.
That we have.
I want to remove Aden Duale, the current Cabinet Secretary for Defence, from the room and bring in Aden Duale, the former Member of Parliament for Garissa.
It's not possible.
And a former majority leader.
How is that possible?
Tell me, Mheshimiwa.
No, how is that possible?
Are you do you really believe that you did not have to go to Parliament to seek approval before deploying our KDF?
You know, it is the Constitution that is speaking. In 241 B, it says we assist other security agencies in times of emergency and disaster to make peace and law and order.
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, we have used that provision, and I cannot go to C before B. The framers of our constitution knew what they were doing. So C might come, and it's not the first time C has been used. It has been used in Tana River when there was that serious clashes, over 200 people died. So right now we are assisting the police. So we are there under the command of the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mr. Noor Gabo. Why are we there? The frame of the Constitution and the KDF Act feels that there are certain expertise and equipments that the police don't have in this kind of an operation where they need our support. And I will tell you this. Good example is our surveillance system. We are using drones. We are using aircraft to locate in this very difficult terrain where these bandits are. That capability is only with the Kenya Defence Forces. So they're using our equipment. They're using our intelligence to gather. Two, we have got highly specialized logistics vehicles, you know, the APCs, our engineering department that can open up a road very fast. The police doesn't have that. So if you go to the command and operational headquarters of this whole operation, is in a small town called Chemolingot. Yes, in Tiati. I have been there. So we are there to assist, and I want to confirm that up to now, I think we are doing very well in terms of the command, in terms of neutralizing and bringing peace to this area. If and when the National Security Council in its sittings feels that we should use now C, where Kenya Defence Forces is deployed 100% to bring peace and stability to that region, then that time we will come to Parliament to ask for approval from the National Assembly.
So that then you can deploy.
We can deploy and we remove
a military officer in charge of the operation.
No. In fact, the police will not be there.
At all?
At all. They will come back and do the urban work they usually do. They will not be in the theatre.
At present, you're required to report back to Parliament.
Yes. What I'm supposed to do, and I have done it, is, and you know, this is what we are doing. In fact, I'll give you a very good example. It's like when we went to assist the operation during the terror attack at Westgate. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to gazette when our forces go and help the police. And then I notify the speaker through writing, which I did, and gazette the date. Once this operation is over, I am supposed to report back to Parliament. on the number of equipment used, the number of security officers we have used, both general and servicemen, and the amount of resources we have spent. All those I must report to Parliament, and then Parliament committee will look at it, and if they see they are not happy with what I've reported is not what has happened, then they can interrogate me. So I'll do that at the end of the operation.
It's at the end of the operation?
It's at the end of the operation. That's what the law says.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long is the operation, according to the law?
The operation is as long as we clear bandits and their financiers and their infrastructure from the North Rift.
So it's indefinite?
Oh, it's indefinite.
It will go on for as long as
possible.
possible.
It can be the next 2 months. It can be the next 6 months.
It can be the next 2 years.
The most important thing is achieve the objective why we went there, which we are going to achieve. So far, we have achieved up to about 60%.
Mheshimiwa, we thank you very much for joining us today. And I want you to give back the message to, first of all, the people in those 6 counties in the restive north.
Yes.
What is the assurance that the government is giving them today? Because like we said, as you are preparing to come to this studio, there are people in Baringo who are still feeling, we don't know what's happening. There are people in various parts of those regions who feel like they have not felt the presence of this major security operation. Speak to them directly.
No, first I really want to ask the people of that region that what they have gone through many years is hell. Any responsible government should not have allowed that. Their children have all the rights like other children to go to school. Their roads must be opened and tarmacked. They must be given enough water. They must enjoy what the Constitution gives to every Kenyan. So I really want to ask them that there was a failure, an omission on the part of government and the previous government. And I want to assure them that there is commitment at the highest level. And when I say highest level in security means the commitment of the chair of the National Security Council, the president, and the commander-in-chief of Kenya Defense Forces. We will bring this matter to an end. We will change the livelihood of their people in terms of making sure schools are built, boarding schools are built, their children go to school, their roads are opened, more water dams are built, and job created for the young people in that area. Those 6 counties are part of the 47 counties, not exceptional. They should sleep at peace, and the taxes that they pay, like any other Kenyans, must help them achieve their constitutional rights, socio-economic rights.
Asante. Aiden Duale, CS Defense, thank you very much for joining us. Keep it here for more conversations. We open up the phone lines in the next hour. Good morning. It's 5 minutes after 9.
Spice up your life.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo. You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Hi, City. Do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda. don't answer. What are they
How
saying?
are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of the
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Kismuga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Sasa baridi ni degree ngapi hapa?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys again.
Spice up your life.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God.
The reason for which you went to school and then
all right, 3 minutes after 9 o'clock.
That reason must be
still
paid.
busy.
Okay.
This level.
Ship up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
It's about shipping out. You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the sheep in the bathtub? Or
the sheep man.
Emmanuel Talam brings to tell us a story of Noah in school. And they've been told to write composition about a sheep. His classmates raise their hand. Teacher, are you talking about the sheep or sheep goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
On Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start.
Final hour of The Situation Room. This morning, it's a lovely Friday, 31st day, final day of March 2023. Tomorrow, April, Q2, like that. If we talk about the government financial year, we're getting into the final quarter of the financial year. And governors have not received money since Q2. Hey, Kenya, my friend. Where? Where? City. The day's proverb, tafadhali.
Yes, the final proverb for the week, and from DRC.
Yes.
Friendship does not need pepper to cry.
Friendship does not need pepper to cry.
No, it doesn't.
Friendship is friendship. There's no such thing as genuine friendship.
No. Genuine friendship exists. And that's why it does not need an incentive. It does not need a crutch. It does not need a little nudge. It's there. I mean,
friendship should be genuine.
It's just it. And the authenticity is clear and obvious. But the moment it requires assistance, the moment it requires aid, then you question it. The moment it requires some other activity to authenticate it, then you clearly have something that is the equivalent of a problem.
Very good. Very good. Now, let's come into that conversation and open up the phone lines, okay? So we've seen this week we've had 2 demonstrations taking place in the same week. And in the early hour, we're asking ourselves, so what's the end game? Aiden Duale came here and he's characterized it as a whole different thing. He says from where they see it, from the intelligence, it's no longer demonstrations. It's called it post-election violence and all. Big things coming from the CS in charge of defense at the security level. The question, though, is now we as Kenyans, all right, we who are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the cost of living, we who are bearing the brunt of everything, cost of items at the shelf, at the petrol station, the lack of opportunities for the youth, the lack of opportunities, unable to pay school fees and all this and the other. We, the people, what do we feel ought to happen? Right? No?
Yes, absolutely. Because this is it. At the end of the day, we're saying that if you, as Kenyans, are always being used, this is what Kenyans want. We're doing this for Kenyans. This is what Kenyans... okay, Kenyans, are you actually feeling the same thing that people are saying? Are you on the same page when it comes to you Kenyans who are saying you want this, that, the other thing? Are you also feeling it like that? We know, without a doubt, that Kenyans do feel the brunt of the economy and the way things are currently. but the way in which things are currently going, whether people have chosen a hard stance, whether people have chosen to go to the streets in protest, do you feel that however the negotiation is taking place, do you feel that actually now, yes, your interests now are being taken to heart? Do you feel that this is the way to go about? And if you, who should have a voice when it comes to participatory governance in this country, do you feel that the way in which it's being carried out is the way then that is satisfactory to you as a concerned and participating citizen? You have to have a say. At this point, you have to have a say, because your name is being carried all the time. The Mwananchi is you. The Mwananchi that they used to carry conversations, the Mwananchi that they used as the bedrock and foundation of most conversations. What do you actually think about this thing? I reckon that you must have some kind of sway if you're the one who's always being used to start or end a conversation. Abi? Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So the question is, should the demonstrations then continue? Should they continue? Do you support the call for continued demonstration into next week?
Into next week or into forever, until however long it should actually take
until
to achieve whatever
happens.
is going to be achieved. And I've told you before that I actually do feel that people should have a right to demonstrate. People should have a right to protest. People should have a right to oppose those things which they feel are not going in their favor, especially when it comes to the governance of any country. However, the thing that you're demonstrating for or against, that act of demonstration should be almost a sure guarantee that one of two things will happen. Number one, somebody will sit up and take notice, and as a result of that, do something about this thing for which you're demonstrating. That the action should almost guarantee you that something will happen, something will move. Because if you're doing it and you've done 1, 2, 3, and you're not seeing as if anybody, then perhaps you need to rethink the strategy. I believe that protests have a place in governance, whether it is from a leadership point or whether it is from the point of the citizens. It has a place. However, it has a place in terms of guaranteeing that a certain change will take place. If it is not if you don't have any kind of guarantee whatsoever from what we're seeing now, from the hard stance that's being taken, you might want to rethink the strategy around all of this.
However, counter this with, let me counter with this, Ndu. If you begin a protest with a guarantee of an outcome, then don't begin the protest. Because you already have the outcome guaranteed. If you know that I want to protest so that you give me that cup of yours, and I know that you'll give me the cup, that means that I know if I asked you for the cup, you'll give me the cup. So why do I need to protest?
No, what I'm saying in this sense is that I am registering my dissatisfaction with something by protesting, am I not?
Yes. Yeah.
At the same time, in my protest, I'm also trying to push the one I am protesting against to do something, because I know that you have the power to make that change.
Yeah.
In this case, as we've discussed until we're blue in the face, what true power rests in the hands of those that are being demonstrated against to make a change with the speed and alacrity with which it's being demanded? We'll give examples. We give again the examples of shutdown Windhoek. You know very well that the government could have actually said, you people in the police service, you have a responsibility as per the Constitution of Namibia to say that when a woman who has been violated brings a case to you, you are mandated by law to actually do something about it. It was rampant. These people shut down Windhoek until Parliament had to sit, because the provision is there. Until Parliament had to sit and say, okay, guys, now let us bring this thing back to life, whereby our police service and policy stakeholders will make sure that something is done when a woman walks into an agency and says, I have been violated, do something, 1, 2, 3. We hold you to account. Let's go to Nigeria, where young people who have been terrorized by SARS for decades said, you know what? It's enough. We're shutting this thing down. It's enough. We will no longer be victims at the hands of the police service. You have a rogue element in the police service, and they're killing our sons. They're raping our daughters. They're harassing people on the streets and asking for money. We stay in the streets until you do what? President Buhari shut down SARS. because you can do something about it. So I'm asking today, you go into the streets and one of the big things is high cost of living. Can we demonstrate to the point that food costs will come down?
Yes.
That they'll come down?
Yes, it can happen.
Okay.
You know, the demand is actually direct and express. Bring subsidy. So there is a result that is being demanded for, a tangible result.
Okay.
Introduce an unga subsidy. Okay? So you can say that we are demanding for an unga subsidy.
The people who are
will
in
stop
the streets
demonstrating when the unga subsidy comes in.
Okay, now hear me. The people in the streets who are demonstrating on a daily basis, is it in their mind what we are asking for is an unga subsidy, that the government bring an unga subsidy into existence?
Some, yes. Others are fungua sava, which is also a complete and...
You have been the ones who have complained about there being a lack of unity of purpose here.
There are too many messages, okay?
Yeah.
But all those messages, what I'm saying is, all those messages have something that you can say, tick this box, and you have achieved it. If you talk about cost of living, they say, bring unga subsidy. If you talk about now the electoral justice, first, reinstate Cherera 4. You know, you can reinstate them or you cannot. 2, open the server. So if you open the server, then you can call off the strike. 3, include us in this selection panel for the new IEBC. Okay? Where we can say, all right, guys, sawa. The members who are coming from the Parliamentary Service Commission, we remove one, bring your person. The members who have come from the political parties liaison committee, so call that meeting again, you political parties, you include someone else, okay? The religious leaders, bring your religious leader, then if you think that you're the ones who run the religion in this country. So bring your... So, you know, we can say that conversation can actually happen. See, they're tangible. So, the calls have something tangible. Is it realistic? That's a whole different matter. But is it measurable? Are there measurable things that can happen that we can say, this can happen, and then we can go back home? And I say yes.
You know, for me, if actually, you know what? And the good thing about having a mind that's active is that when another option is preferred to you, that you then you reserve the right to be able to change your mind really quickly.
Yeah.
So here it is. Then if you're saying there are actually things that can happen as a result of sustained demonstrations and they're actually for the benefit of the country and the benefit of the citizens, then why not demonstrate? My problem is this nonsense that we've been seeing that has been happening as a result of the demonstrations. I take big issue with it.
It is the manner of the conduct of the demonstration.
That's my problem.
And
but
it is also
what I started with,
whether this is the only avenue that you can use to realize this objective.
You have to ask, have they tried anything else before?
That's my point. My point is, those things can be realized, but it doesn't have to be by pouring out onto the streets. Pouring out onto the streets is like Sifuna was telling us, is a point where you feel that everything else that you were given power by the people has failed, and so you're going back to the people and telling them, take back your sovereignty. You delegated the sovereignty to me as your leader, and I have been unable to achieve it, so take it back and achieve it by yourself. Because that's what they're saying. That's what they're doing. That's why they're going back to the streets. To me, if it's an issue of the unga subsidy, the way to get it is come up and tell us we want X billion shillings to be put in a budget. And then we discuss that and say, you Kenya Kwanza affiliated MPs are rejecting this express and direct proposal, 300 billion shillings in the next financial year to go into unga subsidy.
So you not just had an idea.
You see, 15 billion shillings is going to fertilizer subsidy.
Yeah.
How much do they want for the unga subsidy? That for me is it. If you say that we want to participate in this electoral maneno reforms, blah, 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 say, Speaker, Kola Kamukunji, let's have another conversation about the Parliamentary Service Commission. Who is representing us, that thing? Can we recall that list? If those were the conversations that they were talking about, fine. Pouring onto the streets is not the only way to achieve these things.
Actually, there are those who have the belief that that is the only way. And you are right, there are other ways of achieving it. There is a country in Southern America called Chile. Now, they had protests that were massive.
Yep.
And forget this one of ours. This one of ours compared to theirs is child's play. But they had issues that they were complaining about. And you know what sparked it off? Public transport fares.
It was too high.
The
train especially.
Yep. they said, this one, it's a bit too high. And then while they were at it, they threw in and said, while we're at it, this minimum wage thing is a little too low. You need to raise it, okay? And they also said, President, you resign, okay? And meanwhile, draft a new constitution. Now, we have a new constitution. But the end result, my friend, was a bit catastrophic. The number of people who died were 36 as of February 2020. And this thing began in 2019. The injuries were 11,564. The people were detained, 28,000. Now, the president later announced and said certain changes will come about. But the thing that I found notable about this, the method that they were using to achieve their ends, wait for it, protests, number 1. 2, fare evasion, they stopped paying for fares. 3, civil disobedience. 4, rioting. Lastly, looting. Now, the frustrations that a citizenry face must not be treated as though it's a suggestion or it's a passing cloud. It must be treated for what it is, a reality that people are facing. And even as a government has plans to resolve or to solve these problems, the optics that surround the resolutions must be clear, and it must resonate with those who have these problems. They must feel that this problem is being solved. They must believe it is being solved, even before it is solved. They must believe that when this government says they're going to solve this problem, they're actually going to solve the problem. But what do we have as our culture? Blame and counter-blame. Always looking for a reason to place blame on someone else. And as we have that discussion, the real problem is pushed aside. It's not even discussed. And yet it's real. Russia invaded Ukraine. We know.
Yep.
We also know this same Ukraine brought grain to this country. They were donating it on 2 separate occasions with all their problems. Why? Because they have the grain. Are we discussing the actual plans that this government has for resolving this one issue? And Eric is right. When you protest, even when you have demands, there must be, okay, we will stop this if we achieve this. It can't be if we achieve everything, because you're not going to achieve everything. You never do. But that is mollified when you show the plan you have for addressing what people consider critical. So the question that we have to keep asking, is this government giving the impression, not solving, that they are willing and they have started a process of resolving these critical issues? Talking about fertilizer is not that discussion. It definitively is not. Talking about things you're going to do in the future is definitively not. It's too far. So what is it that must be done so that even as they're talking, they're saying, folks, this protest you want to go for, why are you going for the protest? And yet we have already provided this for you.
And that's why I say, CT, if unless you have some sober discussion on these issues, some of these things will not come out.
No, they won't.
So there's one side of the political divide that says the best solution in terms of an intervention is a maize subsidy. Remove X billion shillings from the exchequer and fund a subsidy in one way or the other. Whether you're saying that you're going to bring X billion shillings and give to millers and tell them go and buy maize or whatever, X billion shillings and call it a subsidy. The other one, which the government can argue, is we are actually having interventions. Intervention number 1, it's a subsidy. We are foregoing tax, input duty, by saying bring in the maize, we will forego government revenue of duty, which is going to cost X amount of money, so the maize can come in, and then the maize will go to the millers, and then the unga will come. That's a subsidy. If you actually look at that, it is a subsidy. When
it is a subsidy.
Open importation window, duty-free. There's a government foregoing duty, X amount of intended revenue. That is a subsidy. If you talk about the other things that they're saying, grain and all, that is a subsidy. The question, though, is one side more right than the other side? And I think that's where the parliament should be the place to debate it. Bring out your side and say, this is what we've done. So we actually have a subsidy by foregoing import duty, X amount of money, this number of bags of maize, this number of bags of packets of unga then will end up into the market. So this will be the... If the government was explaining itself that way, a debate. If these other guys were saying, no, you are misappropriating that money, instead of foregoing that tax of 15 billion shillings, you should remove money from 15 billion shillings and use it this way. Then let's have an open discussion.
Absolutely.
We're just up there and saying, bring the cost of unga down, bring subsidy. But we are bringing maize. The maize will come.
Eric, you raise a very important point because essentially you've pointed and shown a very glaring light at the dishonest political conversations that we're actually having. Because even if you think about the discussion we've had with Mheshimiwa, the CS for Defense, and Duale, there is what we are told, there is the narrative that we hear. But there are counter narratives, there are subterranean narratives, there are so many other narratives that you don't hear, and yet they are at the very center of what is going on. There is the issue of who is sponsoring the protest. On the other hand, there's the issue of there were ills that were committed by this other government that we must be brought to light. There is the issue of we are setting this thing straight, and we have the interest of the Mwananchi at heart. And then you ask the question, we get that discussion, but they don't have, they can't afford unga. Okay, we bring it down. We have a larger plan, which we are hoping will solve this problem in the long term. And you're saying, that's not really what we asked. People are hungry today. We're repeating it. Okay? So, are we saying therefore that whether it is the opposition or whether it is government, that they are more concerned with the politics that concerns their position as opposed to should I continue or is it a rest before you
point is home.
Point is home even before I continue.
Point home.
Yes.
27 minutes to 10.
Yes.
Let's take a break. After the break, we want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. Should Azimio call off these protests to avert a slide into anarchy? Because that's what we are seeing all over the headlines and everybody who's talking about, there should be dialogue, Should this be the route to take? Let's hear from you. It's a Minute Maid break.
It is. So getting back and taking the break and doing your thing when it comes back to productivity, how about something to re-energize your senses as you think about so much? Minute Maid and all the wonderful flavors that it offers you gives you a chance to do just that. Take a sip and have an moment. Moments with Minute Maid.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I'm sure you're wondering how you can spend less and get more as we approach the Easter period. Well, the Standard Digital e-paper has a solution for you, and it's the half-price Easter special for all news and entertainment buffs who look for a credible source of information and content they love. Well, this one's for you. We're offering you a chance to pay half for the full story and all the extras. Instead of 6,199 Kenya shillings, pay 3,099 Kenya shillings and stay on top of what is happening across the globe. At your own convenience, for less. This incredible offer is valid till 30th April 2023. Subscribe now. Visit epaper.standardmedia.co.ke and enjoy the half-price Easter special. Get the full story all year long. Only with Standard Digital e-paper. Standard Digital e-paper. Tap tap, just how you like it.
Sleepwalking through the afternoon. Sleepwalking through the afternoon. Sleepwalking through the afternoon.
Don't live life on repeat. Enjoy your break moments with Minute Maid Delight, a treat that awakens your senses and fills you with vitality. So fill those break moments with the indulgent sensations of Minute Maid, featuring delicious mango, tropical and apple flavors. Minute Maid, filled with life.
Are you looking for your dream home or the perfect plot of land to build on? Look no further than Digger Real Estate, the e-commerce site for all your real estate needs. From cozy apartments to sprawling estates, we have a wide selection of houses for rent and for sale. And if you're looking to build from scratch, we have prime plots of land available for purchase. Don't settle for anything less than your ideal home. Head to realestate.digger.co.ke today to
18 degrees and mostly sunny conditions in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 15, and we'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Nakuru at 19 and mostly sunny in Nyeri, highs of 24 and highs of 24 as well in Eldoret, where it is sunny at 19. It's 30 and sunny in Mombasa. It'll go to highs of 33, and we'll see highs of 33 as well in a sunny Malindi at 31. 23 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28 and highs of 30 in a sunny Kakamega at 21. 22 and cloudy in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam. It's 15 and raining in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 12, and 26 will be mostly cloudy conditions in Lagos, going to highs of 32. 28 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa, coming down to lows of 22. Looking out into Beijing, Friday evening is partly sunny at 23. 24 will be the high and lows of 10, and it's cloudy in Paris with a windy morning at 12, highs of 15 and lows of 10. 11 and cloudy in London, highs of 12 and lows of 8, and 4 degrees still Thursday night in New York. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 11 and lows of 4.
Spice up your life.
All right, getting to the last minutes of traffic hour this morning. We're looking at just a little bit of it left on the Thika Superhighway. And then you should be okay coming off Kiambu Road in a while. I said a while, not immediately, but we'll just give it a few minutes more so that we can get out of that drama that is. It never was a problem on Mombasa Road today. And also Langata Road behaved really well. Uhuru Highway, however, getting out towards the Nyeri Stadium, we'll watch out for that. Okay, talk to us through the morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Let's hear from you. 0719 012 600. Please say that thing that you've said again with regards to the demos. What's your feeling?
My feeling is
continue, not continue.
You know, the thing is, for me, it's difficult to say continue or not continue because the other things that you're taking into consideration. Is it possible to have protests? Because we've seen protests, we've seen demonstrations, you know, whereby violence did not occur. We've seen where wanton destruction did not take place. And please, let's be very clear that the majority of the people who are involved in these protests and demonstrations are not the violent ones. There's a few rogue elements that come up, but unfortunately, you see the worst before you see the better. That's just it. Is it possible to protest against some of these things that we are seeing while maintaining peace, order, keeping some of these things, you know, under the boil? There's a place for demonstrations. There's a place for protest. There's a place for picketing, and there is a place for it.
I say, don't continue with this demonstration. If we are going back to the streets, we demonstrate against all elected leaders, all of them, the president and his deputy, and the entirety of parliamentarians, both the National Assembly and the Senate, because those are the ones who should be solving our problems. That's why they are in office. Otherwise, let them not earn this month's salary and join us on the streets. Otherwise, if we must demonstrate, because I can see each of these issues, if they have exhausted an avenue for discussing, you know, maize, and I said again, go take a budgetary proposal to Parliament, argue it out and seek, because that's the nature of Parliament. You are going to have the majority having their way and the minority having their say. However, the majority are not a one unit. You should go, and the entire idea of debating is to go and convince the other side to see your side. If those in the minority don't believe that they have any capacity to convince anybody otherwise, then their ideas are completely useless. That's basically what they're saying. That we have such stupid ideas that nobody can see or can come to our side. But if you have brilliant ideas, what would prevent anybody from saying, okay, you make a point. How can we discuss this further? Let's go to the phone. Hold on, City. Let's hear from Mwalimu Irongo Amos in Kisii. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
How is the philosophical Moses?
Moses is here. Moses, how are you?
Well, why do I get the impression that Mwalimu Irongo is referring to me? Mwalimu hujambo lakini?
Sijambo mzee.
Asante kaka.
Ndu, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let me summarize my points. Calling off the strikes will be suicidal. We are dealing with the government, which has declared itself a company where people have shares. That one has been said by the Deputy President. We've seen them actualizing their position by appointing people from essentially one community. They don't appear to be ready for discussions. So in this regard, whereas we also do not agree to the position taken by the opposition because they have brought too many issues to the table, too many. But it can be understood because if you come out to picket, to demonstrate, you must excite the public so that they can assist you. So the only way to make this government understand that they do not own Kenya, and particularly I'm referring to Kimani Ichung'wah, the Deputy President, and a few others who are extremely arrogant, insensitive to the present day suffering of the Kenyans. The demonstrations should be carried out every day and probably night, so that they can wake up and sit down and listen to Kenya, lower the arrogance. Finally, the police have added to another point of discussion. They allow for looting. Because you're not telling me that it is the opposition that should stop it from looting. It is the police.
Yes, Mwalimu? We lost him. Robert in Kwale.
Yes, Eric, you and my old man.
Good morning.
We are very well, including your old man.
Robert, uko pale kwenye beach pale.
Kuna upepo mwingi.
Mimi niko Kinango huku.
Hey, there's something wrong with the line. Try calling again, Robert. There's something wrong with that line. Amani, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Du. Good morning, CT, our old man. Sorry, CT.
Why are you apologizing when it's evident that I'm clearly not young?
No. I don't agree that you're an old man. So there you are. You have a wonderful gray beard. You look great. So, hey, hello.
Thank you.
Welcome, CT. Okay, I think I have 2 points.
All right.
And that is the mandamandos must stop immediately, simply because they're not benefiting anybody in terms of the Kenyans who want to lower food prices and cost of living. It's not doing that, so it should stop immediately. Secondly, I'm not sure why nobody is asking the question, if these are really peaceful protests, why are we seeing people with stones? How does that even arise? Stones, batons, etc. The police may have their issues. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't, and I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying some of them may have their issues, but the police have the right to coercive power, which the Mandamando guys do not. You must remember that. And part of controlling crowds anywhere in the world is using tear gas, shields, etc. That is part of the police package, so to speak.
Right.
Okay? Now, about the unga, since we're talking about people being hungry now as we're speaking, I think if the government made a statement right now and told all businesses that carry unga, and that can be verified by either KRA and other government bodies who are involved in that kind of thing, that there will be no tax of any kind to those shops, where their unga products are concerned. That way, the unga price would automatically come down like now as we speak. So just be told, okay, fine, you have 1,000 bales of unga. On these 1,000 bales, if the tax on it is, 50 shillings, whatever it is, or 100 shillings, you remove it immediately and start selling to people less that tax. That can be done like this, because that tax is what you and me actually have paid and are paying. So the government can reduce it without putting a subsidy coming directly from Treasury. This is 20 billion Kenya shillings to sustain this, because it won't work. Yeah, that has been done. It lasted 28 days. It didn't work. So let's not go there. But tax can be changed immediately. The government has to stand up right now. That is the WSR, Ruto, His Excellency, and just declare that. And it'll be in effect by this afternoon.
Okay.
So that would solve the standard of living in terms of food.
So then, Amani, this is an immediate solution, intervention that can be deployed.
Right.
It's not being deployed. How do you get the government to deploy it?
That is what we need to be talking very loudly about. Put a petition through Parliament, okay? When the people go on the mandamandos, the ones who are serious, who are really not pretending to be doing mandamandos for the sake of the people, all right? Those ones, all they need to do is to have placards, no stones, no nothing, even if there's 20 of them or 100 of them. We don't need more than that. Just demanding that, that's all. And tell the police, 100 of us will be on the streets, and this is what we're demanding. Very specific, nothing else. We're just demanding tax down by this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. Unga reduced by that amount of tax that would be on that unga, and let's move forward. And other very essential items, food items that people need on a daily basis. Okay? That's all it takes. And believe me, things will just, quieten down.
All right. Thank you very much, Amani.
Okay, guys. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Bye. Victor in Nairobi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Hi.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
All right.
So, my point is there are some facts that we must agree on. Number one, a 6-month-old government cannot resign. That's a fact. Number two, it's a right for everyone or anyone to, let's say, picket or express their displeasure with an authority that is misusing their power or misgoverning. That's everybody's right. It can be done peacefully.
Yes.
It can be done violently. Of course, violently is destructive, Peacefully could be slow, but could yield some results. So we need to decide as a country, where do we want to go? Do we want to regress or do we want to advance? Because if we have only one side leaning extremely with their agenda, their views, we'll not move forward. The same is true of the other side. And finally, I had the fears for defense evading some questions, or maybe I could say you threw some softballs at him. For instance, if it is a fact that Uhuru's former President Uhuru is sponsoring the demonstration or destabilizing the country, then why can't they arrest him or charge him? I mean, obviously, that is the right thing to do. The same is also true for Raila. I mean, they know where he lives. They know what he does. They could go and arrest him and charge him. Simple. And then they can embark on their agenda of restoring the economy like they promised they would do during the campaigns. They say they would do a lot of things in 6 months. It is 6 months, and I'm sure that not a lot has been done. So why don't we just arrest the situation? Arrest the people who are disturbing.
Literally.
Literally, exactly. Arrest the situation. Arrest the former president. Also arrest the people, the violent ones. So that way we can move forward. But we have to recollect and reflect as leaders. What do we want for our people? Not for ourselves, but for our people. That is the main question that I posed to both Raila and Ruto and the rest of their sycophants, I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Okay.
Robert in Kwale.
Yes, Eric. Sorry for the mishap.
This is better.
I want to be fast. Yes, well, the Mandamana should go on or not is the question. I think the Mandamana should proceed. But what are the reasons for Mandamana? Are we actually protesting about the cost of living, or do we have some other issues that had to bargain on? Like, for example, when you hear of what comes to the table with Azimio's list, they always talk of or something like that. Which is that it's unprocedural. There is no way who will even Guasava for you, or what else as Guasava. It's a Pandora's box, you see. So what I'm saying is, first of all, I'm in a very humble community. I deal with a very, very poor community that is in Kenango, Kwale. And I see the suffering at hand. How people suffer.
Back into that problem, Robert, but yeah, we got your point. Kuria in Nyeri.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Very
Morning.
Well. Now, my point of contention are two. We go and do picketing and demonstration.
Yes.
What normally leads us into going to picketing or demonstrating? Let us take that an issue that is affecting everyone, cost of living. How the cost of unga, as Wajiko can relate to. How I wish these guys are dealing on the cost of fertilizer, and why fertilizer is not reaching to Kuria, who is in Nyeri, and why in turn that fertilizer will lead into the cost of flour around September, October being at 250 to 270. You see, now that one I'm getting related with. But now the question is this. What is leading? What is the core? What are the top two core functions that are leading into demonstration? You as Eric, who is learned, who is out there, can you tell me the core functions of the demonstration as they are doing? Secondly, the type of demonstrations that we are having. I mean, in Africa, not even in Africa, in the world, we are known for our democracy. How I wish Raila and his friends can take all those through the parliament. Then after they have gone to the parliament and they have their numbers are less, then we out here are going to say, na kweli hawa watu wamejaribu kwenda bunge imeshindikana. That the last thing and the last option I'm going to tell the leaders. I don't want us to go, or I don't want us to pray, or I don't want us to think of how Somalia was one a democracy, then they fell, then they are trying to rise. Let us not attempt to go to that way. And media, Eric, please help us enlighten us more. What do I mean by enlightening us? I, Kuria, who is in Nyeri, normally rely on media to know what is happening at Imara, what is happening at Kawangware. If something negative has happened, please, Eric, it should not be posted in media, however much bad has happened.
Why?
Why am I coming into that? Assuming that demonstrators have started throwing stones at the police. Please, let it not be shown on mainstream media. We are at 7 p.m. when kila mtu amekaa hivi anataka kungoja news kwa KTN. Hiyo kitu iweko na hapo nyuma kusemekana, and there were violence in a certain place called Nyeri town. But then the moment you show it, chances are that my feelings will tend to go towards that, and I will start maybe conceptualizing something bad in my mind. You get what I'm saying?
So it will influence you to join in the destruction.
It will influence me to join to the destruction. However much it will not be physical, even mentally it will influence me, won't it?
Don't you think it could also be highlighting the plight of that person whose kiosk has been torched?
Thank you. If it is a kiosk that has been burned and it is through the demonstration, one thing that we should do on that. If it is a kiosk that has been vandalized, that one should be sure. There is a way that the media should say, however much the demonstration were happening, some kiosks and shops were destroyed. Okay, in case, however much the demonstrations were going on, let us know in that demonstration who gained. Is it the cost of lowering the flour that was gained, or it is the mass destruction that gained? Which one had the upper hand at the end of the day? You see, at the end of the day, Eric, that brother of mine in Siaya, however much I don't know him personally, he is my brother because he is a Kenyan.
Yeah.
So that same fruit, that same patriotism that Kuria has, it should be to the whole nation. I mean, you imagine you, Eric, showing me Kuria fighting live, and you show it on live TV. How effect is it going to have on that other friend of mine who lives in Mombasa?
Okay.
That is a kind of cognizance that we should be having, we as Kenyans.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much,
Thank
and
you,
have a nice weekend.
Cheers,
Asante. A comment here from Johnson. He says, okay, now look at some of the things that happened. In the finance bill of 2022, last year's finance bill, what did Parliament's Finance Committee do? They voted to add 16% VAT on maize flour, making ugali 16% more expensive. They added 16% VAT on wheat flour, a 10% hike on excise duty on bottled water. So, bottled water now became expensive. In urban areas of like Nairobi and such other places, bottled water is the way that people mainly consume water.
Yes.
Then they did a 10% cut on excise tax on cigars, which basically says that the rich who smoke cigars can enjoy them, the Cuban and Mexican cigars, cheaply, while you pay more for ugali, unga mandas, unga chapati. What had happened earlier? Remember, there was then VAT and tax incentives that had been put in place for COVID period. Those ones were removed. COVID issue had not ended. VAT on cooking gas was introduced. Minimum tax, digital tax, opposed to the raising of minimum deposits protected in banks as proposed by MP Dawood. They killed the petroleum bill, which was seeking to cut taxes and levies on petroleum products. All those things happened in the previous Parliament. So Parliament had the powers then. Parliament has the powers now. If all these bills had been introduced, the Parliament can
Could have done it then. They can do it now.
They can remove them now.
This is
This is part of that false conversation that we always have. Something is said because it's supposed to communicate a certain falsehood, but it's presented as the truth. Parliament is not helpless.
No.
They have chosen to be helpless. The leadership is not helpless. They have chosen to be helpless. Everything that is being asked for, let's start with the most basic. The government can reduce the price of unga today if they wanted.
Yep.
Today.
Yep.
If that was a priority, they could.
They could do it.
Yes.
Immediately.
Today, meaning as I'm talking now, 1 o'clock, price of unga has gone to 100. They can do it. If that's what they want, they can do it. But they do not want to
They
do
don't
it.
want to do it.
No, they don't.
So we're just in this dance, which is for those two big formations up there. And they're just using us.
Depressed people are easier to govern.
Much easier.
Yeah.
Up to a point. Up to a point.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation this week. Have a lovely weekend. We'll be back on Monday, God willing. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.